A little learning each day builds a life of strength, confidence, and direction because steady knowledge shapes the mind, guides your choices, and moves you closer to the life you want. Educate yourself daily because growth does not come from what you know, but from what you continue to learn. Every day, people wake up and go through the same routine without giving much thought to how they are growing or what they are learning. They often spend hours on things that bring no real progress while ignoring chances to improve themselves. What they should do instead is make time to learn something useful that adds meaning and value to their lives. Learning daily keeps the mind active, helps build confidence, and gives a sense of purpose. It is not about reading for hours, but about being consistent with small steps that shape who you become. Education is not only for classrooms, but for every choice you make, every book you open, and every skill you practice. If you're ready to take control of your growth and move forward, then let's dive in. Number 1, read 10 pages of a good book daily. Every day begins with choices that shape the direction of our lives. Some of these choices may look small, but they carry great weight over time. One of the most powerful choices you can make each day is to pick up a book and read a few pages. Many people want success, growth, and a better future, but they often look for shortcuts. The truth is, there are no shortcuts. Growth comes from the small steps you take consistently. Reading 10 pages of a good book may not seem like much, but imagine the difference if you do this every day for a year. That is over 3,000 pages. That is the knowledge of dozens of great minds added to your own. That is the kind of habit that changes your thinking, your confidence, and your future. Think about how often people spend hours on things that bring no lasting value. Hours disappear on social media, on empty entertainment, or on worrying about problems that never improve. Yet investing just 15 or 20 minutes into a good book can spark an idea that shifts the way you look at your career, your relationships, and your health. Reading a book is not about finishing quickly. It is about allowing new ideas to shape your mind. It is about training your thoughts to expand beyond the limits you live in today. Every page you read becomes a seed planted in the soil of your life. Over time, these seeds grow into new opportunities, stronger character, and wiser decisions. When I was young, I realized that formal education could teach me the basics, but it could never give me everything I needed to succeed. School may give you a diploma, but self-education gives you freedom. Reading 10 pages of a good book is the beginning of self-education. It is not about grades or exams. It is about equipping yourself with tools for real life. The man or woman who takes time to read each day begins to think differently from the crowd. Most people complain about their circumstances. Most people settle for average. But the person who reads daily has an advantage because they are constantly exposed to new solutions, new ways of thinking, and new levels of discipline. One of the most important lessons you learn from daily reading is patience. The world often tries to push us toward fast results. Advertisements promise instant change. People look for overnight success. But reading teaches you that growth comes one page at a time. No matter how quickly you want to reach the end, you cannot skip the process. You learn to slow down and absorb the wisdom of those who have walked the road before you. Each sentence becomes a building block, each chapter a guide, and each book a mentor. This steady pace prepares you for real success because true success is never instant. It is built step by step through patience, practice, and persistence. Let me tell you what happens when you begin to read daily. At first, it may feel like nothing is changing. You read a few pages and put the book down and life looks the same. But after weeks and months, you notice something new. You begin to recall lessons when facing problems. You start to explain ideas with more confidence. You respond to challenges with greater calm. The knowledge you absorb begins to shape the way you see the world. It is like sharpening a blade each day. Over time, you are no longer dull. You are sharp, clear, and ready. The person who reads daily becomes stronger in mind, just as the athlete who trains daily becomes stronger in body. Now, you might say, I do not have time. But let us be honest. Everyone has the same 24 hours. The question is not time. The question is priorities. If you can find 10 minutes to scroll through your phone, you can find 10 minutes to read. If you can sit through a television program, you can read 10 pages. You do not need to wait for a perfect moment. Start now, even if it is only 5 minutes before bed. The habit is more important than the timing. Once you build the habit, the pages will add up and the results will follow. Do not underestimate what a few pages each day can do when repeated consistently over years. Choose your books wisely. Not every book deserves your time. Fill your mind with words that challenge you, guide you, and strengthen you. Read biographies of people who have overcome struggles. Read books on personal development that teach discipline and focus. Read about health, leadership, communication, and finance. Each subject you explore adds a new layer of strength to your character. Do not just read for escape. Read for growth. Remember, you are shaping your future by what you put into your mind today. A good book is like a conversation with a great mind, and that conversation can shift the entire direction of your life. There is another hidden benefit of daily reading that few people notice. It improves your ability to think for yourself. We live in a world filled with noise and opinions. Everyday voices compete for your attention, trying to tell you what to believe and what to do. But the person who reads develops the ability to pause and consider. You gain the power to filter ideas, to question, and to form your own judgments. Books sharpen your reasoning and deepen your understanding. They give you clarity in a world of confusion. That clarity is rare, and it is one of the greatest advantages you can carry into your personal and professional life. As you continue this habit, you begin to notice that your conversations change. You have more to share with others. You can inspire and guide people around you. You no longer repeat the same complaints as everyone else. You speak with confidence and conviction because your mind is nourished by wisdom. People begin to notice the difference. They see that you carry yourself with a sense of purpose and knowledge. Reading daily does not just change your private world. It changes the way you connect with others. It builds your influence, and influence is one of the greatest powers you can ever have. Imagine yourself 1 year from now. Picture the person you could become if you read 10 pages a day starting today. You would have finished 12 or 15 books. You would have gathered ideas that sharpen your career, strengthen your relationships, and improve your health. You would have a sharper mind, a stronger voice, and a greater vision. That is the power of daily reading. The change does not happen overnight, but when it does, it is lasting. You become the kind of person who stands out in any room. You carry knowledge that cannot be taken from you. You carry confidence that cannot be shaken. The path is clear. Read 10 pages of a good book daily. Do not wait for a perfect moment. Do not wait for someone else to push you. Take responsibility for your growth today. Small steps become great progress. Number 2, listen to one inspiring podcast every morning. Mornings often set the tone for the entire day. Many people wake up rushed, tired, and overwhelmed. They grab their phones, check emails, or scroll through endless feeds that drain their focus before the day even begins. It is easy to feel unprepared when your mind is filled with distractions instead of direction. That is why listening to one inspiring podcast each morning can become a turning point in your life. It is a choice that replaces noise with wisdom. It is a choice that feeds your mind with strength before the world can pull it down with doubt. Think about what happens when you start your day with positive words from voices that encourage growth. Instead of hearing about problems and negativity, you hear stories of people who overcame obstacles. Instead of being dragged into comparison, you hear lessons that remind you of your own potential. A good podcast in the morning becomes a spark that lights your energy. It fills your mind with ideas that carry you forward into every meeting, every decision, and every challenge you face that day. When I first discovered the power of spoken words, I realized that it was not just about information. It was about atmosphere. The atmosphere you create in the morning influences how you feel for hours. If you start with complaints or arguments, you carry tension into your work. If you start with encouragement and clarity, you carry strength. Listening to one inspiring podcast daily is like giving yourself a mental workout. You strengthen your focus. You stretch your imagination. You build resilience for the day ahead. That kind of preparation is priceless in a world filled with constant pressure. One of the greatest advantages of podcasts is how easy they are to fit into your routine. You can listen while making coffee, during a morning walk, or while driving to work. You do not need extra time carved out of your schedule. You simply turn ordinary moments into opportunities for growth. 10 to 20 minutes of inspiration each morning may not look like much, but over months and years, it becomes a powerful influence. Your mind will naturally begin to filter problems differently. You will approach challenges with a stronger perspective. And most importantly, you will not feel alone because the voices you hear remind you that others have walked the path of struggle and victory. There is something deeply human about hearing another person speak directly to you. Reading gives you knowledge, but hearing a voice brings emotion and energy. The tone, the passion, the pauses, all of these elements enter your mind and settle into your memory. That is why a podcast can lift your mood even on days when you feel heavy. A story of perseverance can remind you that your struggles are not permanent. A lesson about discipline can push you to stay consistent when motivation fades. A single sentence heard at the right moment can give you the courage to take action that changes your life. When you listen to one inspiring podcast every morning, you are not just passing time, you are training your thinking. Most people let their thoughts wander aimlessly throughout the day. They react instead of prepare, but by listening with purpose, you guide your thoughts toward growth. You tell your mind what to focus on before the world gives it distractions. That is the difference between living on defense and living on offense. You begin to control the atmosphere of your day. You begin to walk into situations with a sense of direction already formed. That sense of direction becomes your anchor in moments of uncertainty. Some people may argue that podcasts are entertainment, but the right podcasts are education. They are modern classrooms for personal growth. They connect you with teachers, leaders, and thinkers you may never meet in person. Every episode carries pieces of their journey, their failures, and their triumphs. Each lesson becomes yours if you are willing to listen. Imagine being mentored daily by voices who have walked paths of success. That kind of access was impossible in the past. Now it is within reach for anyone willing to press play. You must be selective in what you listen to each morning. Not every podcast will serve you. Choose voices that challenge you, uplift you, and teach you. Choose hosts who bring clarity instead of confusion. Fill your mornings with content that makes you more disciplined, more creative, and more focused. Avoid voices that waste your time with empty talk or negativity. Your mind is like a garden, and every word you listen to is a seed planted. Be intentional about what grows in that garden. When you choose wisely, your mornings become a daily investment in your future. Over time, this simple habit creates visible change. You may notice that your energy levels increase throughout the day. You may find yourself recalling advice from a podcast during a tough conversation. You may start making decisions with more confidence because you have fed your mind with solutions instead of problems. The shift does not happen overnight, but it is steady. The person who listens daily soon becomes the person others look to for insight. People will sense your energy, your clarity, and your drive. They will see that you approach life differently, and they will want to know why. Imagine yourself a year from now after listening to an inspiring podcast every morning. You will have absorbed hundreds of hours of stories, lessons, and strategies. You will have sharpened your focus and deepened your resilience. You will not just know more. You will think differently. You will speak differently. You will lead differently. The person you become after a year of consistent inspiration will not be the same person who started today feeling tired and distracted. That transformation is within your reach, and it begins with the simple act of pressing play each morning. Do not wait for the perfect time to begin. Do not tell yourself you will start when life slows down. Life will never slow down on its own. You must decide to take control of your mornings now. One podcast, one morning, one choice. Over time, that choice builds the foundation for a stronger, sharper, and more confident you. The opportunity is already here. The question is whether you will reach for it. Each morning gives you another chance. Each day gives you a new beginning. The voice you choose to hear at the start of your day may be the very thing that shapes the rest of your life. Number 2, listen to one inspiring podcast every morning. Mornings often set the tone for the entire day. Many people wake up rushed, tired, and overwhelmed. They grab their phones, check emails, or scroll through endless feeds that drain their focus before the day even begins. It is easy to feel unprepared when your mind is filled with distractions instead of direction. That is why listening to one inspiring podcast each morning can become a turning point in your life. It is a choice that replaces noise with wisdom. It is a choice that feeds your mind with strength before the world can pull it down with doubt. Think about what happens when you start your day with positive words from voices that encourage growth. Instead of hearing about problems and negativity, you hear stories of people who overcame obstacles. Instead of being dragged into comparison, you hear lessons that remind you of your own potential. A good podcast in the morning becomes a spark that lights your energy. It fills your mind with ideas that carry you forward into every meeting, every decision, and every challenge you face that day. When I first discovered the power of spoken words, I realized that it was not just about information. It was about atmosphere. The atmosphere you create in the morning influences how you feel for hours. If you start with complaints or arguments, you carry tension into your work. If you start with encouragement and clarity, you carry strength. Listening to one inspiring podcast daily is like giving yourself a mental workout. You strengthen your focus. You stretch your imagination. You build resilience for the day ahead. That kind of preparation is priceless in a world filled with constant pressure. One of the greatest advantages of podcasts is how easy they are to fit into your routine. You can listen while making coffee, during a morning walk, or while driving to work. You do not need extra time carved out of your schedule. You simply turn ordinary moments into opportunities for growth. 10 to 20 minutes of inspiration each morning may not look like much, but over months and years, it becomes a powerful influence. Your mind will naturally begin to filter problems differently. You will approach challenges with a stronger perspective. And most importantly, you will not feel alone because the voices you hear remind you that others have walked the path of struggle and victory. There is something deeply human about hearing another person speak directly to you. Reading gives you knowledge, but hearing a voice brings emotion and energy. The tone, the passion, the pauses, all of these elements enter your mind and settle into your memory. That is why a podcast can lift your mood even on days when you feel heavy. A story of perseverance can remind you that your struggles are not permanent. A lesson about discipline can push you to stay consistent when motivation fades. A single sentence heard at the right moment can give you the courage to take action that changes your life. When you listen to one inspiring podcast every morning, you are not just passing time, you are training your thinking. Most people let their thoughts wander aimlessly throughout the day. They react instead of prepare. But by listening with purpose, you guide your thoughts toward growth. You tell your mind what to focus on before the world gives it distractions. That is the difference between living on defense and living on offense. You begin to control the atmosphere of your day. You begin to walk into situations with a sense of direction already formed. That sense of direction becomes your anchor in moments of uncertainty. Some people may argue that podcasts are entertainment, but the right podcasts are education. They are modern classrooms for personal growth. They connect you with teachers, leaders, and thinkers you may never meet in person. Every episode carries pieces of their journey, their failures, and their triumphs. Each lesson becomes yours if you are willing to listen. Imagine being mentored daily by voices who have walked paths of success. That kind of access was impossible in the past. Now it is within reach for anyone willing to press play. You must be selective in what you listen to each morning. Not every podcast will serve you. Choose voices that challenge you, uplift you, and teach you. Choose hosts who bring clarity instead of confusion. Fill your mornings with content that makes you more disciplined, more creative, and more focused. Avoid voices that waste your time with empty talk or negativity. Your mind is like a garden, and every word you listen to is a seed planted. Be intentional about what grows in that garden. When you choose wisely, your mornings become a daily investment in your future. Over time, this simple habit creates visible change. You may notice that your energy levels increase throughout the day. You may find yourself recalling advice from a podcast during a tough conversation. You may start making decisions with more confidence because you have fed your mind with solutions instead of problems. The shift does not happen overnight, but it is steady. The person who listens daily soon becomes the person others look to for insight. People will sense your energy, your clarity, and your drive. They will see that you approach life differently, and they will want to know why. Imagine yourself a year from now after listening to an inspiring podcast every morning. You will have absorbed hundreds of hours of stories, lessons, and strategies. You will have sharpened your focus and deepened your resilience. You will not just know more. You will think differently. You will speak differently. You will lead differently. The person you become after a year of consistent inspiration will not be the same person who started today feeling tired and distracted. That transformation is within your reach, and it begins with the simple act of pressing play each morning. Do not wait for the perfect time to begin. Do not tell yourself you will start when life slows down. Life will never slow down on its own. You must decide to take control of your mornings now. One podcast, one morning, one choice. Over time, that choice builds the foundation for a stronger, sharper, and more confident you. The opportunity is already here. The question is whether you will reach for it. Each morning gives you another chance. Each day gives you a new beginning. The voice you choose to hear at the start of your day may be the very thing that shapes the rest of your life. Number 3, write down 3 new lessons you learned today. Every day gives us moments that can teach us something if we are willing to pay attention. Most people move from morning to night without noticing the lessons hidden in their experiences. They rush through tasks, conversations, and decisions only to repeat the same mistakes tomorrow. The truth is, growth comes when we stop long enough to reflect. Writing down 3 new lessons each day is a powerful way to capture wisdom that would otherwise disappear. It turns ordinary moments into teachers. It allows you to transform small events into tools for success. The simple act of writing gives the mind clarity, and that clarity shapes the way you think, act, and grow. You may wonder why writing matters when you already remember what happened, but memory fades quickly. By the end of the week, you may forget what you learned on Monday. By the end of the month, you may forget the breakthroughs you had 2 weeks ago. Writing preserves your progress. It gives you a record you can return to when challenges appear again. It allows you to see patterns in your behavior, in your choices, and in your thinking. Over time, you begin to notice how much you have learned and how much stronger you have become. That realization builds confidence because you can see your own growth written on the page. Some days the lessons will be big. You might learn something about your career, your health, or your relationships that changes the way you live. Other days the lessons may be small. You might notice how patience leads to better conversations. You might see how preparation saves you from stress. Both big and small lessons matter. Every one of them adds value to your character. Every one of them shapes the person you are becoming. The discipline of writing 3 lessons daily keeps you alert. It forces you to look closely at your day instead of drifting through it. That level of awareness is rare, and it gives you an edge. When you sit down to write your 3 lessons, do not overthink. Keep it simple and honest. Write what you felt, what you saw, and what you understood. Do not worry about perfect sentences. This is not about style. It is about growth. For example, you might write, "Today I learned that speaking calmly helps people listen better." Or, "Today I learned that taking breaks improves my focus." Or, "Today I learned that gratitude makes stress smaller." These notes may look small, but together they become a library of wisdom. They show you how your thinking evolves day by day. The real power of this practice is not only in capturing lessons, but in applying them. Once you write something down, you remind yourself to use it again. You begin to carry the lesson into tomorrow. You remind yourself to speak calmly in the next conversation. You remind yourself to prepare earlier for the next meeting. You remind yourself to be grateful even when life is hard. Writing turns lessons into habits. Without writing, lessons fade. With writing, they stick. Over weeks and months, these lessons shape the way you live and the way you succeed. This habit also gives you strength during hard times. When you face setbacks, you can look back at your notes and see how much you have already overcome. You can remind yourself of the lessons that carried you through other struggles. You can see proof that you have grown stronger with each challenge. That proof builds resilience. It reminds you that every difficulty contains something valuable if you are willing to learn. Life may not get easier, but you get wiser, and wisdom makes the journey smoother. Some people think they have nothing new to learn each day, but that is never true. Every day holds lessons if you pay attention. A conversation with a friend may teach you about patience. A mistake at work may teach you about preparation. A walk outside may teach you about slowing down. Even silence can teach you something if you listen. The key is not to wait for big events. The key is to notice small details and see what they reveal. Growth is not limited to classrooms or seminars. Growth is hidden in daily life, and writing 3 lessons uncovers it. Over time, this practice does more than record your progress. It sharpens your awareness in the moment. You begin to notice lessons as they happen because you know you will write them down later. You become more mindful of your actions, your words, and your reactions. You pause before speaking because you know it might become a lesson. You listen more closely because you know there is something to learn. This awareness improves your choices. It makes you more thoughtful and intentional. That kind of awareness separates people who drift from people who grow. Imagine yourself keeping this practice for 1 year. At the end of the year, you would have over 1,000 lessons recorded. That is 1,000 moments of wisdom captured from your own life. That is a book filled with reminders of how much you have learned and how far you have come. You could flip through the pages and see your journey written in your own words. You would see proof that each day mattered. You would see that nothing was wasted. You would see that your struggles produced growth, your mistakes produced insight, and your efforts produced strength. The habit of writing 3 lessons daily also teaches humility. It reminds you that no matter how much you know, there is always more to learn. It keeps you curious. It keeps you hungry for growth. It prevents pride from closing your mind. Every lesson, whether big or small, shows you that learning never stops. That attitude keeps you moving forward. It keeps you open to new ideas and new opportunities. It keeps you growing while others stay stuck. The humble learner will always surpass the proud expert because the learner never stops improving. Take time each evening to write your lessons. Make it a quiet moment of reflection. Sit with a notebook, think about your day, and capture the insights. Treat it as a gift to yourself. Protect it as an important part of your routine. Over time, you will look forward to it because it gives meaning to your day. Even on difficult days, you will find value because every day teaches something. That sense of value keeps you motivated, even in seasons of struggle. The habit will remind you that nothing is wasted as long as you are willing to learn. The practice may seem simple, but simplicity is what makes it powerful. Writing 3 lessons does not take hours. It takes only a few minutes. Yet those minutes carry weight because they shape the way you see yourself and your future. Do not dismiss it because it looks small. Remember, small habits build great change. Consistency is what matters most. The more consistent you are, the more powerful the habit becomes. It is not about perfection. It is about persistence. Write every day, and you will soon see your life transform lesson by lesson. Number 4, watch one educational video before going to bed. The way you end your day is just as important as the way you start it. Many people finish their nights with television shows, endless scrolling, or conversations that drain their energy. They go to bed carrying noise instead of knowledge. They drift off tired but not inspired. That is why choosing to watch one educational video before bed can change the way you close each day. It is not about filling your head with random information. It is about feeding your mind with something valuable that stays with you as you sleep. What you watch before bed shapes the thoughts you carry into the night, and those thoughts influence the way you feel in the morning. Think about how often you waste the last moments of the day. You might watch something that entertains you but leaves you empty. You might scroll through updates that only stir worry or comparison. Those habits may seem harmless, but they do not build your future. Replacing them with an educational video is a small step that creates a big difference. When you learn something new at night, your brain continues to process it as you rest. You wake up not only refreshed, but also equipped with fresh insight. You give your subconscious something meaningful to work with, and it rewards you with new ideas the next day. The beauty of this practice is how simple it is. You do not need hours of study before bed. You only need a short video that teaches, guides, or challenges you. It could be a lecture from a great thinker. It could be a short documentary about history or science. It could be a talk on communication, leadership, or health. The topic does not matter as much as the quality of the lesson. The key is to choose something that improves your perspective, sharpens your skills, or deepens your understanding. That one choice each night can add up to a lifetime of wisdom. When I first made this part of my routine, I noticed how it calmed my mind. Instead of lying awake with worries, I went to bed thinking about solutions. Instead of repeating the same concerns, I thought about ideas that lifted me higher. Educational content has that effect because it engages your curiosity. It shifts your focus away from stress and onto growth. It allows you to end your day with direction rather than distraction. That sense of direction is powerful. It gives you peace at night and momentum in the morning. Over time, this habit creates a rhythm of growth that becomes natural. In the morning, you can start your day with inspiration from a podcast. At night, you close the day with knowledge from a video. Between those two moments, you have surrounded yourself with ideas that guide your thoughts and actions. This rhythm creates a cycle of learning that never ends. It turns each day into a classroom and each night into preparation for the next lesson. While others drift through their days and nights, you are building a library of wisdom one video at a time. One of the greatest advantages of watching educational content is exposure to different perspectives. Every person you listen to has lived experiences that you have not. They have walked paths you may never walk. They have faced struggles you may never face. By listening to their lessons, you expand your own view of the world. You learn to see beyond your own circumstances. You develop empathy, creativity, and adaptability. These qualities are not only useful in your career, but also in your relationships and daily life. A few minutes of education each night can open your eyes to possibilities you never imagined. It is important to remember that not all videos are worth your time. Just like books or podcasts, you must be selective. Choose videos that teach rather than distract. Choose content that makes you think rather than content that numbs your mind. Avoid the temptation of random clips that waste time without value. Protect your evenings by setting a clear standard for what you will watch. Make your last moments of the day purposeful. This discipline will ensure that your nights build you up instead of tear you down. You may ask yourself, why before bed? The reason is that the final moments of your day have lasting influence. Your mind is most open when it prepares to rest. The ideas you place there are the ones that settle deepest. That is why negative news or meaningless entertainment at night often leads to restless sleep. On the other hand, a lesson that excites you or a story that inspires you will give you peace and anticipation for tomorrow. You will rest better because your mind has been fed with something meaningful. Sleep becomes not just rest, but also preparation. Imagine how much knowledge you can gain if you watch one educational video every night for a year. That is over 300 videos. That is over 300 new lessons, perspectives, and insights added to your life. You will have gained the equivalent of years of learning compressed into small daily doses. Your conversations will improve. Your decision-making will improve. Your problem-solving will improve. People will notice that you think differently, that you speak with clarity, and that you carry wisdom. This growth will not come from one dramatic event. It will come from the steady, consistent practice of learning nightly. Some people say they are too tired at night to focus, but the truth is, energy follows purpose. If you choose something engaging, your tiredness will fade as curiosity takes over. The key is not to force yourself into long study sessions, but to commit to a short, focused habit. 10 to 20 minutes is enough. The point is not volume. The point is consistency. Once you make it part of your nightly routine, your mind will expect it. Just like brushing your teeth, it will become a natural habit. You will feel incomplete without it because you know how much value it brings. Another benefit of watching educational videos at night is that it builds discipline. It proves to yourself that you are serious about growth. Most people end their day by giving into comfort. You end your day by investing in yourself. That difference in discipline is what separates people who succeed from people who struggle. Success is not always about intelligence or talent. It is often about the small choices that compound over time. Choosing to end each day with education is one of those small choices that multiplies into great results. Picture yourself lying in bed after watching something that taught you a new skill or opened your mind to a new idea. You close your eyes not with regret but with satisfaction. You know that the day added value to your life. You know that tomorrow you will carry that lesson forward. That feeling of progress gives you peace. It gives you confidence. It makes you eager to wake up and face a new day. That is the gift of ending your nights with education. It reminds you that each day is a step forward, no matter how small, as long as you are willing to learn. Number 5, reflect on your day and capture key insights. Life moves quickly, and most people rarely pause to think about what happened in their day. They run from task to task, from conversation to conversation, and when the night comes, they collapse into bed without taking a moment to reflect. This is one of the biggest reasons people repeat the same mistakes and miss valuable opportunities. The practice of reflection is simple but powerful. Taking time at the end of your day to look back and capture key insights turns your experiences into wisdom. Without reflection, days are wasted. With reflection, every day becomes a lesson that strengthens your future. Think about how many things happen in just one day. You make choices, you face challenges, you interact with people, and you manage emotions. Each of these moments holds meaning. If you ignore them, you lose the chance to grow. But if you pause and reflect, you discover lessons that guide your next steps. You may realize that a conversation could have gone better if you had listened more. You may see that preparation made your task easier. You may notice that small efforts brought big results. Reflection shines light on these truths and helps you carry them forward into tomorrow. Reflection also helps you release the weight of the day. Many people carry their stress into the night because they never process what happened. Their minds stay busy, replaying mistakes or worries. When you take time to reflect, you give yourself a chance to clear your thoughts. You can write down what worked well and what needs improvement. You can acknowledge the progress you made instead of only focusing on what went wrong. This process gives you peace because it shows that every day has value, even the hard ones. It reminds you that setbacks are temporary and lessons are permanent. One of the most effective ways to reflect is by asking yourself a few simple questions. What did I do well today? What could I have done better? What lesson did I learn? These questions keep your reflection focused and practical. You do not need long essays. You only need honest answers. By writing them down, you make the insights real and memorable. You also create a record of your growth that you can revisit later. Over weeks and months, you will see patterns. You will notice how your strengths have grown and how your weaknesses have improved. This record becomes proof that you are moving forward. Reflection is not about judgment. It is not about criticizing yourself for what went wrong. It is about awareness. It is about looking at your actions with honesty and learning from them. Many people avoid reflection because they fear what they might see. But avoiding the truth does not change it. Facing it is the only way to improve. When you reflect with honesty and kindness, you create room for growth. You remind yourself that mistakes are not the end but the beginning of wisdom. That mindset builds resilience and courage for the challenges ahead. Another benefit of reflection is gratitude. When you pause at the end of the day, you often notice small victories that you would have overlooked. You remember the kind words someone spoke to you. You recall the satisfaction of finishing a task. You appreciate the moments of laughter or peace. Writing these insights down creates a sense of balance. It prevents you from focusing only on struggles. It reminds you that each day carries blessings as well as lessons. Gratitude combined with reflection makes your life richer and more meaningful. The discipline of reflection also sharpens your decision-making. When you capture key insights, you prepare yourself for future choices. For example, if you realize that rushing caused mistakes, you can plan to slow down tomorrow. If you see that asking questions helped you understand better, you can do it again in your next meeting. Reflection gives you a library of strategies drawn from your own experience. You no longer rely only on memory or guesswork. You rely on tested lessons that you have already lived. This makes you more confident and effective in every area of your life. Let me tell you what happens if you ignore reflection. Days blur together. You repeat the same errors. You miss the lessons that could save you time and pain. You feel stuck because you are living without awareness. Many people live this way for years, wondering why nothing changes. Reflection is the difference between drifting and directing your life. It is the habit that turns experience into growth. Without it, you only live through the days. With it, you rise above them. Reflection is the bridge between where you are and where you want to be. When you begin this practice, keep it simple. At night, find a quiet place. Take a few minutes with a notebook or even a piece of paper. Write down 3 to 5 key insights from your day. Do not worry about making them perfect. Write what is true. Maybe you learned that patience helped you solve a problem. Maybe you noticed that planning your schedule gave you more control. Maybe you saw that kindness change the mood of someone else. These insights may seem small, but together they build a map of personal growth. Over time, you will see how these daily reflections shape your path. Imagine doing this every day for 1 year. At the end of the year, you would have hundreds of insights recorded. You could look back and see the journey of your growth written in your own words. You would see how far you have come and how much you have learned. That record would remind you of the struggles you overcame and the victories you achieved. It would prove to you that no day was wasted. Even the hard days would hold meaning because you captured the lessons they taught. That kind of proof is powerful because it builds belief in yourself and in your ability to keep growing. Reflection also improves your relationships. When you think back on your interactions, you notice patterns. You may see where you spoke too quickly or where you failed to listen. You may realize that small gestures created big impact. These insights help you become more thoughtful and intentional with others. Over time, your communication improves, your patience deepens, and your connections grow stronger. Reflection not only improves your personal growth, but also the way you influence the people around you. It allows you to become a better partner, friend, parent, or leader. The truth is, reflection takes discipline. At first, it may feel unnecessary or uncomfortable. You may be tempted to skip it because you are tired. But like any habit, it becomes easier with practice. The more you do it, the more you see its value. Soon you will not want to end your day without it. You will crave the clarity it brings. You will look forward to capturing the lessons because they give your day meaning. That shift in perspective changes the way you see your life. You stop counting only achievements and you start counting wisdom. That wisdom becomes your greatest reward. Number 6, practice one new skill for just 15 minutes. One of the greatest struggles people face is the feeling of being stuck. They want more in life, but do not know how to move forward. They dream of learning new skills, but the thought of long hours of training feels overwhelming. The truth is, you do not need hours each day to grow. You only need a small, consistent practice. 15 minutes is enough to start. It may seem small, but when repeated every day, it becomes powerful. Practicing one new skill for 15 minutes daily can open doors that you never imagined. It can turn hesitation into progress and progress into mastery. Most people underestimate what can be done in a short amount of time. They believe that growth requires giant steps, so they take no steps at all. They say they will wait until they have more time, but more time never comes. What they do not realize is that 15 minutes is enough to make progress if used with focus. It is better to practice a little each day than to wait for a perfect moment that never arrives. Small effort done consistently is always greater than big effort done rarely. With 15 minutes, you can move from knowing nothing to building real skill over time. Think about what happens when you dedicate 15 minutes daily to learning something new. It could be a language, a musical instrument, a craft, or even a professional skill like writing or speaking. At first, progress feels slow. You may struggle with the basics. You may feel clumsy and uncertain. But if you keep practicing each day, you begin to improve. Your hands become steadier. Your mind becomes sharper. Your confidence begins to grow. That is the power of consistency. The skill that felt impossible yesterday becomes easier tomorrow because you gave it your time. The beauty of practicing for only 15 minutes is that it removes excuses. Anyone can spare 15 minutes. It is less time than most people spend on social media or watching television. You do not need to sacrifice your entire day. You only need to decide that growth matters enough to give it a small piece of your time. Once you commit to this habit, you will see how manageable it is. You will realize that growth is not about intensity, but about persistence. That realization alone is life-changing because it gives you control over your future. Another benefit of this practice is the confidence it builds. Learning something new is uncomfortable at first. You face mistakes. You feel awkward. Many people quit because they cannot handle that discomfort. But when you set a limit of 15 minutes, you make it manageable. You tell yourself that you only need to practice for a short time. That makes it easier to push through the discomfort. Over time, as you see improvement, your confidence grows. You no longer fear the learning process. You embrace it. That change in attitude can carry into other areas of your life as well. 15 minutes of practice each day also trains your discipline. Discipline is not built by big achievements. It is built by small commitments kept daily. When you practice a new skill every day, you prove to yourself that you can be consistent. You teach your mind to value effort over excuses. That discipline becomes a strength that influences everything else you do. You become the kind of person who follows through, who invests in growth, and who makes steady progress. That identity is far more valuable than any single skill because it sets the foundation for lifelong improvement. There is also something exciting about learning something new as an adult. Many people stop learning after school. They believe growth is for the young. But the truth is, growth is for anyone willing to practice. Learning a new skill keeps your mind sharp. It keeps you curious. It keeps you alive with possibility. 15 minutes daily can remind you that it is never too late to grow. It can prove to you that you are still capable of change, no matter your age or stage in life. That awareness fills you with energy and hope for the future. Think of the skills you could explore with this practice. You could learn to cook new recipes. You could learn basic coding. You could practice drawing or painting. You could develop better communication skills. You could train your body with new exercises. The options are endless. The key is to choose one skill and commit to it. Do not try to learn everything at once. Focus on one thing for 15 minutes daily. Once it becomes natural, you can expand to another. That focus will give you deeper results and greater satisfaction. The process of learning a new skill also teaches patience. Progress does not come instantly. You may feel frustrated when improvement seems slow, but if you stay with it, you will see change. This patience is valuable because it prepares you for larger goals in life. It reminds you that success is not a single event, but a process. By practicing 15 minutes daily, you train yourself to value progress over perfection. You learn to celebrate small wins, and those small wins add up to big achievements over time. Imagine what you could achieve in a year by practicing 15 minutes daily. That adds up to more than 90 hours of focused effort. 90 hours is enough to become good at many skills. You could learn to play songs on a guitar, hold conversations in a new language, or master tools that advance your career. That growth would not come from one intense burst of effort. It would come from small, steady practice. This is the secret most people miss. Great achievements are built on small habits repeated daily. Another important aspect of practicing a skill daily is that it sharpens your focus. For those 15 minutes, you give your full attention to the task. You shut out distractions. You train your mind to concentrate. In a world filled with constant interruptions, this ability to focus is rare. But it is also one of the most valuable skills you can have. By practicing daily, you not only learn the new skill, but also train your ability to focus deeply. That focus will help you in every other area of life, from work to relationships to personal growth. The act of practicing daily also builds resilience. There will be days when you do not feel motivated. There will be times when you feel tired or discouraged. But by keeping your commitment to practice, even when it is hard, you build strength. You teach yourself to keep moving forward regardless of feelings. That resilience becomes a habit, and it carries over into other challenges. You become the kind of person who does not quit easily. You develop grit, and grit is one of the most important qualities for long-term success. The best part of this habit is the sense of fulfillment it gives. Each day, when you finish your 15 minutes, you feel a small victory. You know that you invested in yourself. You know that you grew stronger in some way. That sense of progress is deeply satisfying. It makes you proud of your effort. It makes you eager to continue tomorrow. Over time, these small victories add up to a powerful sense of achievement. You look back and realize that you are no longer the same person who started. You are stronger, wiser, and more capable because you chose to practice daily. Number 7, ask one meaningful question and search the answer. One of the most powerful ways to grow is by asking questions. Yet most people go through their days without asking anything that truly matters. They accept things as they are, and they never challenge their own thinking. They wonder why they feel stuck, but they never stop to ask what could move them forward. The habit of asking one meaningful question each day and then searching for the answer can completely change the way you think. It forces you to look beyond the surface. It pushes you to think deeper. It teaches you to become a seeker of truth instead of a passive observer of life. Questions are the beginning of knowledge. Every great discovery started with a question. Every breakthrough in business, health, or personal growth began when someone asked, "What if?" or "Why not?" or "How can I?" A meaningful question has the power to open doors that you did not even know existed. It can lead you to ideas, people, and opportunities that you would have missed if you never asked. The act of questioning keeps your mind sharp. It keeps you curious. It prevents you from becoming stagnant. And when you search for the answer, you expand your understanding of the world and yourself. Many people avoid questions because they fear the answers. They worry that the truth may challenge their comfort. They worry that the answer may force them to change. But avoiding questions does not protect you. It only limits you. Growth requires courage, and courage often begins with a question. When you dare to ask, you dare to grow. And when you search for the answer, you take control of your learning. Instead of waiting for life to teach you through mistakes, you guide your own learning through curiosity. That is the mark of someone committed to growth. The beauty of this practice is that the questions do not have to be complicated. They only need to be honest. You might ask, what is one way I can improve my health? You might ask, how can I manage my time better? You might ask, what is holding me back in my career? These questions are simple, but the answers can transform your life. By writing them down and searching for answers, you create a habit of problem solving. You train your mind to look for solutions instead of excuses. Over time, this habit will set you apart because most people complain about problems instead of seeking answers. When you search for answers, do not limit yourself to one source. Look in books, listen to podcasts, watch lectures, or ask mentors. Explore different perspectives. Compare what you find. This process does more than give you knowledge. It teaches you how to think critically. It shows you how to weigh ideas, test them, and apply them. That skill is invaluable because it protects you from blindly accepting whatever others say. It gives you the ability to form your own conclusions. It makes you stronger, wiser, and more independent in your thinking. The discipline of asking questions daily also helps you discover your passions. The questions you ask reveal what matters most to you. If you often ask about health, it shows you value well-being. If you often ask about leadership, it shows you value influence. If you often ask about relationships, it shows you value connection. Over time, these patterns help you see your priorities more clearly. They show you where to focus your growth. They reveal the areas that will bring you the greatest fulfillment. That clarity is priceless because it helps you invest your time and energy in the right places. Some days, the question you ask may not bring an immediate answer. That is part of the process. Sometimes the search takes time. Sometimes the answer requires patience. But even the act of searching builds growth. It keeps your mind active. It keeps you looking forward. It reminds you that not knowing is not failure. Not knowing is simply the beginning of learning. When you learn to live with curiosity, you stop fearing the unknown. You start to see it as an adventure. That attitude will carry you far because life is always changing, and the curious thrive where the passive struggle. Imagine what would happen if you asked one meaningful question every day for a year. That is 365 questions. That is 365 new areas of growth. That is 365 opportunities to expand your understanding. By the end of that year, you would not only know more, you would think differently. You would approach problems with a sharper mind. You would carry a sense of curiosity that few people have. And that curiosity would keep you learning for the rest of your life. That is how you create lasting growth, not through shortcuts, but through daily questions. Let us think about how this habit shapes your conversations. When you practice asking questions daily, you become more engaged with others. Instead of speaking only about yourself, you learn to ask about them. Instead of shallow talk, you learn to dig deeper. This makes you a better listener and a more thoughtful communicator. People will notice that you care about understanding, not just talking. That builds trust. It builds influence. It makes your relationship stronger because questions show respect. They show that you value the other person's thoughts and experiences. This practice also helps you overcome pride. Many people pretend to know everything. They avoid questions because they think it makes them look weak. In reality, asking questions is a sign of strength. It shows humility. It shows that you are willing to learn. And the person who is willing to learn will always outgrow the person who believes they already know enough. Pride stops growth. Curiosity fuels growth. By asking questions daily, you remind yourself to stay open. You remind yourself that learning never ends. That openness keeps you moving forward while others remain stuck. There will be times when the answer you find is uncomfortable. It may show you that you need to change a habit. It may reveal that you have been avoiding responsibility. It may challenge beliefs you held for years. Do not run from these answers. Embrace them. They are gifts. They are opportunities for growth. They are the very reason you asked the question in the first place. Growth is not always easy, but it is always worth it. Each uncomfortable answer you face makes you stronger. Each lesson you accept makes you wiser. This is how you build character and resilience. The practice of asking questions daily also sharpens your creativity. Questions open your mind to new possibilities. They push you to think beyond limits. They encourage you to imagine different solutions. Creativity is not just about art. It is about solving problems in every area of life. By asking questions, you train your brain to see multiple paths instead of one. You become flexible. You become innovative. These qualities are valuable in work, relationships, and personal goals. The world changes quickly, and creativity is one of the greatest tools you can carry. As you continue this habit, you will notice that your confidence grows. At first, asking questions may feel uncertain. You may doubt yourself. But as you search for answers and find them, you build confidence. You realize that you can learn anything you need to. You realize that solutions are always available if you are willing to seek them. That realization gives you courage. It makes you bolder in your goals. It makes you stronger in your challenges. It makes you believe in your ability to handle whatever life brings. Confidence is not built by pretending to know. It is built by asking and learning until you do know. Number 8, teach one idea you learn to another person. One of the greatest struggles people face is keeping knowledge locked inside themselves. They read, listen, and watch, but then they move on without ever sharing what they learned. Over time, much of that knowledge fades because it was never reinforced. The truth is, the best way to truly understand something is to teach it. When you teach, you test your own understanding. You find the gaps in your knowledge. You strengthen the ideas in your memory. Teaching one idea you learned each day to another person is not just about helping them. It is about cementing the lesson inside yourself. Think about how you feel when you explain something to someone else. At first, you may stumble as you try to find the right words. But then you notice that as you speak, the idea becomes clearer in your own mind. You begin to understand it better than when you first heard it. That is the magic of teaching. The act of explaining forces you to organize your thoughts. It requires you to break down the lesson into simple language. That process deepens your own understanding, and it makes the knowledge part of who you are, not just something you once heard. Most people underestimate the power of sharing ideas. They think teaching belongs only to classrooms, but teaching is for everyone. Each day gives you the chance to pass on something valuable to someone around you. It could be a friend, a family member, a colleague, or even a stranger. You do not need to deliver a lecture. You only need to share one idea. It could be a principle about discipline. It could be a tip about health. It could be a story that carries a lesson. These small acts of teaching may look simple, but they leave lasting impact on both you and the person you share with. Teaching also builds your confidence. When you speak about something you learned, you prove to yourself that you can hold knowledge and express it. You no longer feel like a passive learner. You begin to see yourself as someone who has value to share. That shift in identity is powerful. It makes you more engaged in your learning because you know you will pass it on. You pay closer attention when you read or listen because you know the responsibility of teaching awaits you. This changes the way you approach education. It becomes more active, more intentional, and more rewarding. Another benefit of teaching is the connection it creates. Sharing ideas is one of the fastest ways to build trust and respect. When you teach, you are not just giving information, you are giving part of yourself. You are showing someone that you care enough to help them grow. It creates bonds built on growth and encouragement. People remember those who teach them because teaching is an act of service. It lifts others up, and in return, it lifts you as well. This practice also sharpens your communication skills. Many people struggle to explain themselves clearly. They have ideas in their heads, but cannot express them in a way others understand. Teaching daily solves this problem. Each time you share an idea, you practice turning thoughts into words. You practice clarity. You practice simplicity. Over time, you become a better speaker and communicator. This skill will benefit you in every area of life. Whether in business, relationships, or leadership, the ability to explain ideas with clarity is one of the most valuable strengths you can have. You might wonder how to find someone to teach each day. The answer is simple. Look around. Every person you meet could benefit from something you know. Share with a coworker during lunch. Share with your children during dinner. Share with a friend over the phone. Share with someone online. The opportunity is always there if you are willing. Do not wait for a stage or an audience. Start where you are, with whoever is near. One person is enough. Teaching is not about numbers. It is about impact. Even one shared idea can spark change in someone else's life. Teaching also deepens your responsibility. When you share ideas, you begin to feel accountable for living them out yourself. If you teach about discipline, you remind yourself to stay disciplined. If you teach about kindness, you remind yourself to be kind. Teaching aligns your actions with your words. It keeps you honest. It keeps you consistent. This alignment strengthens your character. It turns lessons from theory into practice. Over time, you become a person who not only knows, but also lives the values you teach. Imagine how this practice could shape your life over a year. If you taught one idea each day, that would be 365 lessons shared. 365 opportunities to help someone else. 365 chances to reinforce your own learning. By the end of that year, you would not only have grown in knowledge, you would have multiplied that knowledge in others. You would have created ripples of growth that extend far beyond yourself. That is the true power of teaching. It multiplies wisdom instead of keeping it locked away. One of the greatest joys of teaching is seeing the effect it has on others. Sometimes you will see their eyes light up with understanding. Sometimes you will hear them repeat the idea later, using it to help someone else. Sometimes you will watch their lives change because of something you shared. These moments remind you that your growth is not just for yourself. It is meant to be shared. They remind you that the ideas you carry can touch lives in ways you may never fully know. That sense of contribution is deeply fulfilling. Do not wait until you feel like an expert to start teaching. You do not need to know everything. You only need to know something. Even if the idea is simple, it can still be valuable. Often, it is the simplest lessons that make the biggest difference. Share what you learned today, even if it feels small. Remember that teaching is not about showing off knowledge. It is about helping someone else grow. If you learned one idea, you are already qualified to share it. Start with what you have. The act of sharing will make both you and the other person stronger. Over time, you will notice that teaching becomes one of your greatest sources of growth. It motivates you to keep learning because you always want to have something new to share. It sharpens your understanding because you practice explaining every day. It deepens your relationships because you give value to others. It strengthens your character because you live what you teach. The simple habit of teaching one idea daily becomes a powerful force that transforms your learning into lasting impact. Number 9, replace 30 minutes of scrolling with reading. Many people today feel drained without knowing why. They sit down for a short break, reach for their phone, and suddenly 30 minutes or even an hour disappears. They scroll through posts, headlines, and pictures that hold no lasting value. When the time is gone, they feel no wiser, no stronger, and no closer to their goals. Instead, they feel restless and distracted. This habit of endless scrolling steals not only time, but also energy and focus. Imagine what could happen if you took those same 30 minutes and replaced them with reading a good book. That small change could transform wasted time into one of the most valuable investments of your life. Scrolling feels easy because it requires no effort. You can keep swiping without thinking. That is why it is so addictive. But anything that requires no effort usually brings no reward. Reading, on the other hand, requires focus, but it rewards you with growth. Each page you read gives you new ideas. Each chapter gives you perspective. Each book gives you tools that can shape your future. The energy you give to scrolling vanishes into nothing, but the energy you give to reading comes back multiplied in wisdom, clarity, and confidence. Think about what you could read in 30 minutes a day. You could read history and learn from the mistakes and victories of the past. You could read biographies and absorb the lessons of people who achieved great things. You could read about health and improve the way you take care of your body. You could read about finance and gain control over your money. You could read about leadership and strengthen your influence. Each subject opens new doors, and every door you open expands your opportunities. That is what 30 minutes of reading can do. Now ask yourself what scrolling gives you. At best, it gives you entertainment. At worst, it fills your mind with comparison, negativity, and distraction. Scrolling often leaves you feeling less confident because you compare your life with highlights of others. Reading does the opposite. It builds confidence because it reminds you of your own potential. It shows you that growth is possible. It inspires you to take action. That is why replacing scrolling with reading is not just a habit change. It is a mindset shift. It shifts you from consuming noise to consuming wisdom. Another benefit of reading is the peace it brings. Scrolling keeps your mind restless because it bombards you with fragments of information. None of it goes deep. None of it settles. Reading slows you down. It invites you to focus on one idea at a time. It allows your mind to relax while also growing. This sense of calm is rare in today's world, and it is one of the reasons reading feels refreshing. When you close a book, you feel lighter, clearer, and stronger. When you stop scrolling, you feel heavier, more distracted, and less satisfied. The difference is clear. Replacing scrolling with reading also sharpens your attention span. Every swipe trains your brain to jump from one thing to another without focus. Over time, this weakens your ability to concentrate on meaningful work. Reading trains the opposite. It teaches you to sit with one idea. It trains your mind to hold focus for longer. This skill carries into your work, your studies, and your relationships. The ability to focus is becoming rare, and those who have it will always stand out. 30 minutes of reading each day is one of the best ways to strengthen it. Some people may argue that they do not have time to read. But the truth is, they already spend the time. It is just spent on scrolling instead of reading. 30 minutes is there for everyone. It is in the time before bed, in the morning before work, or in the moments when you reach for your phone. You do not need to create extra hours. You only need to redirect the time you already use. Once you do, you will see how much progress you can make. The difference is not in having more time, but in making better use of the time you already have. Imagine the books you could finish in 1 year if you replaced just 30 minutes of scrolling each day. That adds up to more than 180 hours of reading. That is enough to finish 20 or more books. 20 books filled with lessons, stories, and strategies that could improve your life in countless ways. That is the potential sitting inside your daily choices. Do you choose to scroll and forget, or do you choose to read and grow? That choice is in your hands every day. This practice also builds discipline. The habit of picking up a book instead of your phone teaches you self-control. It shows you that you can resist the easy path in favor of the better one. That discipline strengthens your character. It proves to yourself that you are in control of your habits, not the other way around. Each time you choose reading over scrolling, you build inner strength. Over time, that strength carries into other areas of your life. You find it easier to make better choices because you have practiced the art of discipline daily. There is also a joy that comes with reading that scrolling can never match. The joy of finishing a chapter that made you think. The joy of discovering a new idea that sparks excitement. The joy of seeing your own progress as you move through a book. These moments create a deep sense of satisfaction. They remind you that your time was well spent. Scrolling rarely gives you that feeling. It may give you a momentary laugh or distraction, but it does not leave you fulfilled. Reading leaves you fulfilled because it gives you something lasting. Over time, this habit changes the way you see yourself. You no longer see yourself as someone who wastes time. You see yourself as someone who invests in growth. That shift in identity is powerful. It changes your confidence, your actions, and your goals. You begin to expect more of yourself because you know you are capable of more. You begin to see possibilities you never noticed before. All of this begins with the simple choice to put down the phone and pick up a book for 30 minutes each day. Picture yourself 1 year from now after making this change. You will have filled your mind with ideas that guide your career, strengthen your relationships, and improve your health. You will have more confidence in your knowledge and more clarity in your goals. You will no longer feel restless at the end of wasted time. Instead, you will feel proud of the progress you made. That pride will fuel even more growth. The small act of replacing scrolling with reading will have created a ripple that touches every part of your life. Number 10, summarize a chapter in your own simple words. Many people read books and then quickly move on to the next one. They finish the last page, put the book down, and weeks later they can barely remember what it was about. This happens because they never stop to reflect on what they read. The lesson passed through their eyes but never settled in their mind. That is why the practice of summarizing a chapter in your own simple words is so powerful. It forces you to slow down. It requires you to process what you learned. It gives you the chance to turn knowledge into understanding. Without this step, most of the value is lost. When you summarize, you are not repeating the author word for word. You are translating the lesson into your own language. This process shows whether you truly understood the message. If you can explain it clearly and simply, it means you absorbed it. If you struggle, it means you need to go back and read again. This habit becomes a test for your comprehension. It ensures that you are not just collecting books on a shelf, but actually building wisdom in your mind. Each summary becomes proof that the lesson is now part of you. The act of summarizing also makes the lesson easier to remember. Your own words carry more weight than borrowed ones. When you write or speak a summary, you anchor the lesson in your memory. Days later, you can recall it more easily because you connected it with your own style of expression. The brain holds on to what feels personal. That is why summarizing works. You are not just recording someone else's thoughts. You are shaping them into something that belongs to you. This simple shift makes all the difference between forgetting and remembering. Another benefit of summarizing is clarity. Books often contain complex ideas, long explanations, or detailed stories. These can be overwhelming if left unprocessed. Summarizing cuts through the noise. It helps you capture the main points without getting lost in details. You learn to focus on the heart of the message. This clarity is important because it saves you from confusion later. Instead of flipping back through pages to find meaning, you already have it written in a clear, simple form. This record becomes a tool you can revisit whenever you need it. When you practice summarizing, you also strengthen your ability to communicate. Imagine being in a conversation and someone asks what you are reading. If you have practiced summarizing, you can explain it in a few sentences. You do not ramble. You do not confuse. You speak with precision. This makes your conversations richer. It allows you to share ideas with confidence. It builds your influence because people respect those who can explain things clearly. Over time, this skill becomes one of your greatest assets. The ability to take in knowledge and then explain it in simple terms is rare, and it sets you apart. You may think that summarizing takes too much time, but in truth, it saves time. Without summaries, you forget what you read and must relearn it later. With summaries, you capture the lessons once and can revisit them quickly whenever you need. A few minutes spent writing or speaking a summary can save you hours of relearning. It also increases the return on every book you read. Instead of forgetting 90%, you keep the most valuable 10% and carry it with you. That efficiency makes your learning much more powerful. Let us consider what this looks like in practice. You finish a chapter about discipline. The author shared stories, principles, and advice. Instead of moving on, you stop. You write, "This chapter taught me that discipline is the bridge between goals and results. It reminded me that small daily actions matter more than bursts of effort. It showed me that self-control builds freedom." In a few sentences, you have captured the essence. Now, whenever you look back, you will remember the heart of the lesson. That short summary will refresh your memory in seconds. The discipline of summarizing also trains you to think critically. You do not just accept everything written. You ask yourself, what is the main point here? What is useful to me? What can I apply right now? This process separates valuable lessons from filler. It helps you filter wisdom from noise. Not every sentence in a book deserves equal weight. Summarizing forces you to decide what matters most. This habit sharpens your judgment, and that judgment strengthens your learning. Imagine how powerful this practice becomes when repeated consistently. If you read 10 pages a day and summarize each chapter, by the end of a year, you will have not only read several books, but also created a collection of personal notes in your own words. This collection becomes a library of wisdom written by you, for you. It is something you can revisit anytime. It is something you can share with others. It is a record of your growth over time. Few people take the effort to do this, which is why those who do stand out. Summarizing also creates accountability. When you take time to write what you learned, you remind yourself to live by it. It is easy to read about patience, but when you summarize, I learned that patience prevents mistakes. You now hold yourself to that standard. Each summary becomes a mirror. It shows you the values you claim to believe. That mirror keeps you honest. It keeps you aligned with your growth. Without it, it is easy to drift back into old habits. With it, you have a daily reminder of who you are becoming. This practice can also be shared with others. When you summarize a chapter, you can teach it to a friend or family member. Sharing makes the lesson stronger. It gives others value and deepens your own understanding. You do not need to share the entire book. You only need to share the key ideas in simple language. Often, people do not have time to read what you read, but they are eager to hear the lessons. By summarizing and sharing, you extend the impact of every book far beyond yourself. Over time, summarizing will also change the way you approach books. You will read with greater focus because you know you must explain it later. You will look for main ideas instead of drifting through pages. You will pay closer attention, highlight what matters, and think critically as you read. This shift makes reading more engaging and productive. You stop being a passive reader. You become an active learner. That difference is what separates those who read for entertainment from those who read for transformation. Picture yourself 1 year from now with this habit in place. You have finished several books. For each one, you have clear summaries written in your own words. You can explain the lessons quickly and with confidence. You can apply them in your work, your relationships, and your goals. You can share them with others and inspire them to grow. You feel stronger because the knowledge you gained did not slip away. It became part of you. That is the reward of summarizing a chapter daily. It turns information into transformation, and transformation is what builds the life you desire. Number 11, read a biography to learn from real experiences. Life often feels overwhelming because we face challenges without knowing if anyone else has gone through the same struggles. We wonder if our failures are unique, if our obstacles are too heavy, or if success is even possible for people like us. One of the best ways to gain perspective and strength is by reading biographies. A biography is more than a story. It is the record of a real life lived, with real decisions, real mistakes, and real victories. When you read a biography, you step into someone else's journey. You see their struggles and their breakthroughs. You learn not from theory, but from actual experiences. When you pick up a biography, you are not just reading about events. You are watching how someone handled fear, doubt, and rejection. You see how they rose after failure, how they kept going when others quit, and how they found solutions when the path seemed impossible. These are lessons no textbook can give. Real life is messy, and biographies capture that reality. They show the strength of persistence and the cost of choices. They remind you that every great life is built on challenges, not ease. That reminder alone can give you courage to keep moving forward in your own path. The beauty of biographies is that they cover every field. You can read about leaders who built nations, thinkers who shaped ideas, entrepreneurs who created industries, artists who changed culture, and ordinary people who lived extraordinary lives. Each story gives you different lessons. A leader's biography may teach you vision and discipline. An entrepreneur's story may show you risk-taking and innovation. An artist's journey may remind you of creativity and authenticity. Every biography gives you something unique, yet all share the same truth. Growth requires struggle, and success is never an accident. Many people believe they are alone in their struggles. They think their failures are too big or their challenges too unique. But biographies prove otherwise. Every life contains setbacks. Every life contains disappointment. What separates those who succeed is how they respond. When you read about someone who failed dozens of times before achieving success, you gain hope. You realize that failure is not the end. It is part of the process. You understand that persistence matters more than perfection. These insights sink deep when you see them in the context of a real life, not just as advice. Reading a biography also builds empathy. It allows you to see the world through another person's eyes. You understand the environment they grew up in, the pressures they faced, and the sacrifices they made. This perspective broadens your mind. It helps you respect different journeys. It teaches you that greatness comes in many forms. You may not agree with every choice they made, but you learn from it. You realize that every person's story has value. Another strength of biographies is that they give you practical lessons. When you read about how someone managed time, built habits, or solved problems, you gain strategies you can apply. These lessons are not abstract. They are tested in the real world. They carry weight because they worked for someone who lived through similar challenges. You can adapt their methods to your own life. You may discover new ways to approach your career, your health, or your relationships. Instead of guessing, you are guided by examples. This makes biographies one of the most useful forms of learning. Think about the inspiration that comes from reading how someone refused to quit. Imagine the effect of learning how an inventor spent years of failure before finding success. Picture yourself reading about a writer who faced rejection again and again but kept creating. These stories light a fire inside you. They remind you that nothing worthwhile comes easily. They show you that ordinary people can achieve extraordinary things when they stay committed. This inspiration is different from motivational words alone. It is grounded in real experience, which makes it believable and powerful. You might ask, why not just read summaries or short articles about people instead of full biographies? The answer is depth. A summary gives you facts. A biography gives you the journey. It takes you through years of decisions, emotions, and growth. It lets you walk beside the person instead of just glancing at them. That depth is what allows the lessons to stay with you. You see not just the success, but the process behind it. You see the human side of greatness. That experience changes the way you view your own struggles. When you make reading biographies a habit, you create a collection of mentors. These people may be from different times and places, but their stories guide you. They become voices in your mind when you face challenges. You remember how they acted in similar situations. You recall their persistence, their courage, and their creativity. Even though you never meet them, they influence you. They remind you that you are part of a larger story of human effort and growth. That reminder gives you strength to continue building your own life. Biographies also teach you balance. You often discover that even the most successful people face struggles in other areas. Some neglected health. Some lost relationships. Some carried regrets. These parts of their story are just as important as their victories. They remind you that success without balance can come at a high cost. They encourage you to build wisely, to avoid mistakes that others already made. Learning from their regrets can save you from creating your own. This kind of wisdom is rare, but biographies deliver it in honest detail. Another benefit of biographies is that they inspire gratitude. When you see the hardships others endured, you appreciate the opportunities you have. You realize that you stand on the shoulders of those who came before. You understand that the comforts and freedoms you enjoy were built through sacrifice. This perspective shifts your attitude. It makes you more grateful for what you have. It also motivates you to use your opportunities wisely. Gratitude combined with responsibility becomes a powerful force for growth. Imagine how much knowledge you could gather if you read several biographies each year. Each book would give you a lifetime of lessons condensed into pages. Each story would add perspective to your own. Over the years, you would build a deep understanding of human struggle and achievement. You would gain wisdom far beyond what your own experiences alone could teach. That resource would serve you in every decision, challenge, and opportunity. If you need courage, read about someone who overcame fear. If you need discipline, read about someone who mastered habits. If you need creativity, read about someone who broke boundaries. The right story at the right time can give you exactly what you need. It can remind you that you are not alone. It can give you a model to follow. It can encourage you to keep going when you feel like stopping. That is the power of choosing wisely. Picture yourself a year from now after reading several biographies. You will not just know names and dates. You will carry the lessons of lives lived fully. You will have examples of resilience to lean on when you feel weak. You will have models of vision to follow when you feel lost. You will have reminders of discipline to guide you when you feel distracted. Most of all, you will know that success is possible for ordinary people who stay committed. That knowledge will give you strength, courage, and wisdom that no amount of scrolling or idle talk could ever provide. Number 12, keep a notebook to track daily learning progress. Many people want to grow but feel unsure whether they are improving or staying in the same place. They work hard, they read, they listen, and they practice, yet they cannot see the changes clearly. This lack of clarity often leads to frustration. You might feel like nothing is working even though you are actually making progress. The solution is simple. Keep a notebook to track your daily learning. Writing down what you learn each day turns invisible progress into visible proof. It allows you to measure growth, capture insights, and see how far you have come. When you write in a notebook, you create a mirror for your mind. Every page holds your lessons, your reflections, and your experiences. This habit gives structure to your growth. Instead of letting ideas pass through your head and disappear, you record them. Instead of forgetting the lessons that life and books teach you, you capture them in one place. Over time, the notebook becomes more than paper and ink. It becomes a record of your journey, a map of where you started and where you are going. Without it, you risk losing valuable lessons that could shape your future. The act of writing by hand also sharpens memory. When you write something down, you reinforce it. Your brain pays more attention and the lesson settles deeper. You may not remember every word you wrote, but the process itself strengthens your understanding. This is why students who take notes learn faster. Writing makes learning active. It forces you to process the idea instead of just letting it pass. Keeping a notebook for your learning works the same way. Each entry strengthens the connection between knowledge and action. You do not need to write long essays in your notebook. The key is consistency, not length. A few sentences are enough to capture the main point of what you learned. You might write, "Today I learned that small habits create big change." Or, "Today I learned that listening carefully improves relationships." These short notes may look simple, but they hold power. They create a record you can revisit when you need guidance. They remind you of lessons you might otherwise forget. They show you that every day teaches something valuable if you take time to notice. Over time, your notebook becomes a source of motivation. On days when you feel stuck, you can flip back through the pages and see all the lessons you have gathered. You can see proof of your growth. You realize that you are not the same person you were weeks or months ago. This perspective gives you encouragement to keep going. It reminds you that progress is happening even when you do not feel it. Without a notebook, growth feels invisible. With a notebook, growth becomes undeniable. This habit also teaches discipline. At first, it may feel inconvenient to stop and write every day. But the more you do it, the easier it becomes. It turns into a ritual that closes your day with clarity. The discipline of writing daily carries over into other areas of life. It trains you to be consistent, to value reflection, and to stay committed. These qualities are essential for success. By keeping a notebook, you are not only recording growth, you are also building the character needed to sustain it. Keeping a notebook also improves your problem-solving skills. When you write down what you learn, you often see patterns. You notice recurring challenges. You see repeated lessons. These patterns reveal the root of your struggles and point towards solutions. For example, you might notice that several entries mention procrastination. This shows you that time management is an area to improve. Or you may see that patience appears often, reminding you of its importance in your relationships. Without writing, these patterns stay hidden. With writing, they become clear. Another benefit of a notebook is that it builds your voice. Writing daily helps you find your style of expression. You learn to explain ideas in your own words. This skill is valuable not only for personal growth, but also for communication with others. When you can express what you have learned, you can teach it. You can inspire others. You can lead with clarity. Your notebook becomes training for your voice, sharpening it day by day. Imagine the power of having 1 year of learning recorded in a notebook. You would have hundreds of entries filled with lessons, reflections, and insights. You could read back through them and see your transformation. You could see how your thinking matured, how your habits improved, and how your perspective shifted. This record would become a treasure, something you could return to whenever you need direction. It would also remind you that learning is not just about information. It is about progress, one day at a time, written clearly in your own hand. The physical act of writing in a notebook also creates a sense of connection. In a world where so much is digital, a handwritten notebook feels personal. It carries your effort, your focus, and your presence. It is something you can hold, flip through, and reflect on without distraction. The touch of paper and the flow of ink create a rhythm that slows your mind and deepens your awareness. This tactile experience makes the habit more meaningful and helps you engage with your learning on a deeper level. A notebook also helps you celebrate small wins. You can record not only what you learned, but also what you achieved. Each page becomes a reminder of your effort. You see that learning is not just about big breakthroughs, but also about steady progress. Celebrating small wins keeps your motivation alive. It gives you reasons to feel proud and reasons to keep going. Without recording them, these wins are easily forgotten. With a notebook, they become milestones on your journey. This practice is simple, but its effects are lasting. Each entry adds a brick to the foundation of your growth. Each page adds a chapter to your story. Over time, the notebook becomes more than just a record. That identity shapes the way you act, the way you speak, and the way you pursue your goals. It is not the notebook itself that changes you, but the discipline and reflection it represents. Picture yourself 10 years from now with a stack of notebooks filled with your learning. Each one tells a story of a different season in your life. You can pass them on, revisit them, and draw strength from them. That collection would be more valuable than many other possessions because it holds your wisdom. It holds your journey. It holds proof that you lived each day with awareness and growth. That is what a simple notebook can become if you commit to using it daily. Number 13, challenge yourself to learn one new word daily. Many people struggle to express themselves clearly. They feel ideas in their mind, but when it comes time to share them, the words do not come out right. This leads to frustration in conversations, in work, and even in personal goals. The truth is, words are tools. The more tools you have, the more effectively you can build your future. A limited vocabulary limits your thinking and your opportunities. Expanding your vocabulary expands your world. That is why challenging yourself to learn one new word every day is such a powerful practice. It is simple, yet over time it can transform the way you think, speak, and connect with others. Think about how often you listen to someone who speaks with clarity. Their words capture attention. Their explanations feel sharp and precise. You find yourself drawn to their confidence. That ability is not an accident. It is built through years of expanding their vocabulary. They have more choices when speaking, which allows them to express ideas with accuracy. You can build the same strength by adding one word daily to your own vocabulary. It may not seem like much at first, but small steps done consistently create remarkable results. When you learn a new word, you are not just memorizing letters. You are gaining access to a new way of thinking. Words carry meaning, history, and perspective. They shape the way you understand the world. For example, learning a word about leadership gives you a tool to describe qualities you notice in others. Learning a word about emotions helps you explain what you feel with more depth. Each word you add sharpens your awareness. It allows you to name what you once could not explain. That clarity changes the way you think about yourself and others. The best part is that learning one word a day is realistic for everyone. You do not need hours of study. You only need a few minutes. You can learn a new word while having coffee, while waiting in line, or before going to bed. Once you know the word, use it in a sentence. Share it in conversation. Write it in your notebook. This repetition helps the word stay with you. Soon it becomes part of your natural speech. Day by day, your vocabulary grows. Year by year, your voice strengthens. Over time, this practice builds confidence. Many people stay silent in discussions because they fear they will not have the right words. They worry about sounding unclear. As your vocabulary grows, that fear fades. You have more words to choose from, and this gives you courage to speak up. Confidence in speaking leads to confidence in leading, in influencing, and in achieving. People respect those who can explain ideas with strength. They listen more closely and they trust more deeply. This is the kind of confidence that learning one word a day can give you. Whether you write emails, reports, or personal reflections, vocabulary makes a difference. Limited words create weak writing. Expanded words create strong writing. When you have more choices, you can express ideas with precision. You can make your writing clearer, shorter, and more powerful. This skill is valuable in every career. Employers notice it. Leaders value it. Friends and colleagues appreciate it. Writing well is one of the fastest ways to stand out, and vocabulary is the foundation of writing well. You may wonder how to choose the words. The answer is simple. Focus on words that matter to your life. If you work in business, learn words related to strategy, communication, and finance. If you value personal growth, learn words that describe habits, emotions, and character. If you enjoy creativity, learn words that capture expression and imagination. The goal is not to learn unusual words that you will never use. The goal is to build a vocabulary that serves your daily life. Choose words that you can apply, and your learning will feel meaningful. Another benefit of this habit is that it keeps your mind active. Learning new words is like exercise for the brain. It stretches your memory, your focus, and your curiosity. Each word is a small challenge, and the brain thrives on challenges. Over time, this mental exercise sharpens your thinking. You become quicker at understanding, quicker at connecting ideas, and quicker at solving problems. Mental sharpness is not just about age or talent. It is about keeping the mind active. One new word a day is a simple way to keep that activity alive. This practice also makes conversations richer. Instead of repeating the same phrases, you bring variety into your speech. You explain yourself with more accuracy. You connect with others more deeply because you can express what you truly mean. People notice when you speak with clarity. They feel your sincerity because your words match your thoughts. They respond with more interest. This makes your conversations more engaging and your relationships stronger. Vocabulary is not about showing off. It is about connecting better, and connection is one of the most valuable skills in life. Imagine the impact if you stayed consistent for 1 year. One new word daily becomes 365 new words. That is 365 new tools for thinking, writing, and speaking. Over 5 years, that becomes more than 1,800 words. That is a dramatic expansion of your vocabulary. Few people ever make this effort, which is why so many remain limited in their communication. By making it a habit, you place yourself in a different category. You become someone who speaks with power, writes with clarity, and thinks with precision. That is the reward of consistency. The process is simple but requires discipline. You must commit to learning one word daily. You must write it down, say it out loud, and use it. Without use, the word fades quickly. With use, it becomes yours forever. Make it part of your routine. Learn your word in the morning and use it during the day, or learn it at night and review it the next morning. The key is repetition. Repetition makes the word part of your memory. Memory turns into habit, and habit turns into strength. Over time, you will notice that learning words changes more than your speech. It changes your thinking. When you have more words, you think with greater detail. You see opportunities you once overlooked. Language shapes thought, and thought shapes action. Expanding your vocabulary expands your possibilities. This is not just about language. It is about life. The more clearly you can think, the more clearly you can act. The more clearly you act, the more effectively you can achieve. All of it begins with a single word learned daily. Picture yourself months from now. You are in a meeting, and instead of struggling to explain, you speak with ease. You are writing an email, and instead of searching for words, they come naturally. You are having a conversation, and instead of staying quiet, you share your ideas with confidence. People notice the difference. They listen more. They respect more. You feel the growth in yourself. You feel stronger, sharper, and more capable. That feeling is the result of small daily steps, one new word at a time. Number 14, study subjects that connect to your daily goals. One of the biggest reasons people feel stuck is because they learn things that do not connect to their real needs. They spend hours reading random information, watching unrelated videos, or filling their minds with facts they will never use. It feels like effort, but it produces no progress. Growth does not come from learning everything. Growth comes from learning what is relevant. That is why you must study subjects that connect directly to your daily goals. When your learning lines up with your goals, every piece of knowledge becomes fuel. Every lesson becomes a step toward the life you want to build. Imagine two people. One studies subjects at random with no plan. The other chooses to study skills that help him achieve his daily goals. In 1 year, the first person will have a mix of scattered knowledge but no clear results. The second person will have gained targeted skills that produce visible growth. The difference is focus. The truth is, time is limited. You cannot study everything. You must choose wisely. When you connect your study with your goals, you multiply your progress. You turn knowledge into action. You create growth that is not only fast, but also meaningful. The first step is to define your daily goals clearly. If your goal is to improve your health, study nutrition, fitness, and habits that support energy. If your goal is to advance in your career, study leadership, communication, and problem solving. If your goal is to build financial freedom, study money management, investing, and productivity. Each goal points you toward the subjects that matter most. Without goals, you risk wasting your time. With goals, your learning has direction. This direction gives you motivation because you can see how every lesson fits into your bigger picture. Studying subjects that connect to your goals also prevents overwhelm. Many people feel stressed because there is too much information everywhere. They do not know where to begin, so they either do nothing or try to do everything. By choosing subjects that serve your goals, you filter out the noise. You focus only on what matters now. This focus reduces stress. It makes learning enjoyable instead of overwhelming. You know why you are studying, and that sense of purpose keeps you moving forward without confusion. Another advantage of connecting learning with goals is faster application. When you study something relevant, you can use it immediately. For example, if you learn a new skill in communication, you can apply it in your next meeting. If you study healthy eating, you can apply it to your next meal. This immediate use makes the lesson stick. You see results quickly, and results motivate you to keep learning. This cycle of learning and applying builds momentum. It turns knowledge into action and action into progress. Without application, learning fades. With application, learning becomes transformation. Studying subjects tied to your goals also builds consistency. Many people start learning something new but quit after a while. They quit because they do not see results. But when your study connects with your goals, you see progress faster. That progress encourages consistency. You do not have to force yourself to study. You want to study because you can see the benefits in your daily life. Consistency is the key to growth. Connecting your study with your goals makes consistency natural. It turns learning from a chore into a habit that excites you. This habit also develops discipline. When you choose to focus on subjects that matter, you resist distractions. You say no to random information. You say no to entertainment disguised as learning. You say yes to what builds you. This discipline strengthens your character. It shows you that you can focus on what matters and ignore what does not. That strength will help you not only in learning, but also in every other area of your life. Discipline in study becomes discipline in action. Discipline in action becomes success in life. Consider how this applies to your career. If you study subjects that match your work goals, you become more valuable. You develop skills that employers notice. You prepare yourself for opportunities before they appear. While others waste time on distractions, you invest in growth that moves you forward. Over time, this habit separates you from the crowd. People will see you as someone who is prepared, skilled, and reliable. That kind of reputation creates opportunities you never imagined. It all begins with studying what connects to your goals. The same principle applies to personal growth. If your goal is stronger relationships, study subjects like empathy, listening, and emotional intelligence. If your goal is confidence, study body language, self-awareness, and communication. Each subject you study gives you tools to build the life you want. Without this focus, you risk filling your mind with interesting facts that do not change your daily life. With focus, you create real improvement that you and others can see. That improvement builds confidence and encourages you to aim even higher. Imagine the progress you could make in 1 year by studying subjects tied to your goals daily. If your goal is health, 1 year of study could completely transform your energy, your habits, and your body. If your goal is wealth, 1 year of focused study could change how you manage money and create financial security. If your goal is personal growth, 1 year of study could improve your confidence, your discipline, and your influence. The key is not random effort. The key is directed effort. Studying subjects tied to your goals is directed effort at its best. This habit also teaches patience. Growth does not happen instantly. It happens gradually, step by step, subject by subject. When you study with focus, you learn to appreciate the process. You see how each subject builds on the one before. You understand that success is a journey, not a single event. Patience becomes easier when you can see progress connected to your goals. You no longer feel lost because you know where your efforts are leading. That clarity makes patience a strength instead of a struggle. Over time, you will notice that studying with focus sharpens your decision-making. Knowledge becomes your guide. Without it, decisions feel random. With it, decisions feel clear. This clarity saves you time, money, and energy. It prevents regret and builds confidence. Every subject you study adds another layer of wisdom to your decisions. Picture yourself 5 years from now if you commit to this practice. Each year, you choose subjects tied to your goals. Each year, you build knowledge and apply it. In 5 years, you will be ahead of most people who wasted their time on distractions. You will have skills that make you valuable. You will have confidence built on real growth. You will have a record of progress that inspires others. Your life will reflect the power of directed learning, and all of it begins with the decision to study subjects that connect to your daily goals. Number 15, apply at least one new idea in real life. Most people collect ideas but never use them. They read books, listen to podcasts, attend seminars, or take notes, but when the day ends, those ideas stay on paper instead of moving into life. This is the great struggle of growth. Learning without action creates frustration. You feel like you know more, but your life remains the same. The real transformation begins only when you take an idea and put it to work. That is why you must challenge yourself to apply at least one new idea in real life every day. This habit bridges the gap between information and progress. Think about how many times you have heard advice that could change your life but never acted on it. You may have read about the importance of health, but the workout never happened. You may have learned about saving money, but the spending pattern stayed the same. You may have heard about better communication, but the words never left your mouth. Knowledge is potential, but application is power. One small idea applied today is worth more than 10 great ideas left untouched. Every time you apply something, you give it life. You make it real. The beauty of applying ideas is that they do not need to be big. It could be as small as drinking more water after reading about health. It could be writing down a goal after hearing about clarity. It could be speaking kindly after learning about relationships. The size does not matter. What matters is that you acted. Over time, these small actions build into habits. Habits build character. Character builds your future. The process is simple but requires discipline. Without application, learning becomes entertainment. With application, learning becomes transformation. When you decide to apply one new idea daily, you train your mind to value action over theory. Many people love to collect information because it feels safe. Acting feels risky. Acting means you may fail, but failure is part of growth. You learn more by applying one idea imperfectly than by holding on to dozens of ideas you never use. Each attempt teaches you something. Even if it does not work as expected, you gain experience. That experience is more valuable than information alone. It gives you confidence, courage, and wisdom. Another benefit of this habit is momentum. Action creates movement. Once you apply an idea, you feel progress. You begin to see results in your health, your work, your relationships, or your confidence. Results fuel consistency. Consistency creates breakthroughs. Without action, there are no results. Without results, motivation fades. Applying one idea daily keeps your energy alive. It keeps you from becoming stuck in theory. It keeps you moving forward with purpose. Consider how this habit affects your confidence. When you apply ideas, you prove to yourself that you are capable of change. You are no longer just a thinker. You are a doer. That shift builds belief. You begin to trust yourself more. You start to see yourself as someone who takes control instead of waiting for change. Confidence is built through evidence. Each idea you apply is evidence that you can act, that you can grow, that you can achieve. Over time, this evidence builds into unstoppable confidence. This practice also improves your decision-making. Applying ideas requires you to choose which ones matter most. You cannot apply everything, so you must decide what fits your life now. This sharpens your focus. It prevents you from being overwhelmed by too much information. You learn to filter what is useful from what is not. This skill is valuable because life will always give you more information than you can use. The ability to choose and apply is what separates successful people from those who remain stuck. Applying new ideas also changes the way people see you. Most people talk about what they will do but never act. When you start applying, you stand out. Others notice that you are consistent. They respect that you live what you learn. Your influence grows because people trust action more than words. This makes you a leader in your circle even if you do not hold a title. Leadership is not about position. It is about example. When you apply ideas, you set an example others want to follow. Imagine what would happen if you applied one new idea daily for a year. That is 365 ideas put into practice. Some will be small, some will be big, but together they will transform your life. Your habits would change. Your mindset would grow. Your results would multiply. Most people remain the same because they do not act. You would be different because you acted daily. The difference between where you are and where you want to be is not more knowledge. It is more action. This habit gives you that action. Applying ideas also teaches humility. You realize that knowing is not enough. You see that action exposes your weaknesses. It shows you where you need to improve. This humility is not weakness. It is strength. It keeps you learning, growing, and adapting. Each action becomes a lesson. Each lesson becomes a stepping stone. You learn to value progress over perfection. It is about showing up, trying, and improving each day. The process is simple but requires intention. At the end of each day, ask yourself, what idea can I apply tomorrow? Write it down. Plan for it. When tomorrow comes, act on it. Do not wait for the perfect time. Do not overthink. Start small, but start. By the end of the day, reflect on what you learned from applying it. This reflection reinforces the lesson. It makes the habit stronger. Over time, you will find it natural to act on new ideas instead of just collecting them. Think of the satisfaction this habit gives. At the end of the day, you know you moved forward. You know you did not waste the knowledge you gained. You feel proud because you acted. That pride builds momentum. It fuels your motivation for the next day. It creates a cycle of growth that never stops. While others are stuck in theory, you are building a life shaped by daily action. That difference compounds over time. It separates those who dream from those who achieve. Picture yourself 5 years from now if you live this habit. Every day, one new idea applied. That is more than 1-800 ideas turned into actions. Think of the skills you would gain, the habits you would build, the opportunities you would create. Think of the confidence you would carry, the influence you would have, and the success you would achieve. That future is possible because it is built one day at a time, one idea at a time, one action at a time. This is the true path to growth, and it begins with the decision to apply at least one new idea in real life every single day. Number 16, revisit old notes and strengthen what you know. One of the greatest struggles in personal growth is forgetting what you once learned. You may read a powerful book, attend a seminar, or write down an important lesson, but months later the memory fades. You remember the feeling of inspiration, yet the details slip away. This is why so many people repeat the same mistakes. They do not lack knowledge. They lack reminders. Growth requires review. Revisit old notes, go back to the lessons you once captured, and strengthen what you know. The value of learning is not in hearing it once. The value is in hearing it again until it becomes part of you. Most people underestimate the importance of repetition. They want something new every day. They chase new ideas while forgetting the old ones. But wisdom does not come from chasing more. Wisdom comes from applying and reinforcing what you already know. Going back to your notes allows you to revisit truths that once impacted you. You may discover that they feel even more powerful now because your life has changed. A lesson that seemed simple before may now speak to you in a deeper way because you are ready to live it. When you review your old notes, you remind yourself of the progress you have made. You see where you started and how far you have come. That reminder is powerful because progress is easy to forget in the middle of daily struggles. Looking back at your notes shows you that you have already grown. It gives you confidence to continue. It also humbles you by showing you that you still have more to learn. This balance of confidence and humility is what keeps growth alive. Without review, you risk losing both. Revisiting notes also strengthens memory. The human brain forgets quickly. Without review, most of what you learn disappears within days. Writing helps you remember, but reviewing makes it permanent. Each time you return to your notes, the lesson goes deeper into your memory. It moves from short-term inspiration into long-term knowledge. That is when you can use it naturally in conversations, decisions, and actions. Knowledge that is reviewed becomes part of who you are. This habit also saves you from repeating mistakes. Often your notes contain lessons from experiences you once went through. If you forget those lessons, you may find yourself making the same errors again. By reviewing, you remind yourself of what not to do. You protect yourself from unnecessary pain. You also remind yourself of strategies that worked well. This helps you repeat success more quickly. Your notes are not just words on paper. They are a guidebook written by your own journey. Revisiting them gives you direction drawn from your own life. Another benefit of reviewing notes is that it sparks new insights. When you look at something you wrote months or years ago, you see it with fresh eyes. You connect it with new experiences. You discover deeper meaning that you missed before. Old notes can become new wisdom when revisited at the right time. They grow with you. What once seemed like simple advice can later become a principle that changes your path. That is why review is not boring. It is enlightening. It shows you how knowledge evolves with experience. This practice also sharpens focus. In a world filled with distractions, your notes bring you back to what matters. They remind you of your values, your goals, and your priorities. When you feel lost, opening your notebook gives you clarity. It shows you the lessons you once thought were important. Those lessons can guide you again. Focus is not built by chasing endless information. Focus is built by returning to the core lessons that direct your life. Reviewing notes is how you protect that focus. Imagine what happens when you commit to reviewing your notes daily or weekly. You keep your mind filled with the most important truths. You do not allow them to fade. You keep your goals alive in your thoughts. Over time, this repetition shapes your behavior. It creates habits that align with the lessons you have learned. Instead of drifting away from your values, you stay anchored to them. This consistency is what builds lasting growth. Without review, you risk drifting. With review, you stay on course. Revisiting notes also gives you motivation. Reading your own words from the past reminds you of your hunger for growth. It shows you that you once cared enough to write it down. That same hunger can be reignited when you read it again. On days when you feel tired or discouraged, your notes can lift you. They can remind you of the vision you had, the lessons you valued, and the progress you wanted. This kind of motivation is personal because it comes from your own history. It is not someone else inspiring you. It is you inspiring yourself. This habit also prepares you to teach others. When you review notes, you keep lessons fresh in your mind. This allows you to share them more easily with friends, family, or colleagues. People respect those who can recall wisdom clearly. They listen to those who speak with conviction. Reviewing your notes equips you to become that person. You do not need to memorize everything perfectly. You only need to revisit regularly so that the lessons are alive within you. Teaching others then becomes natural because the knowledge is already part of your daily thinking. Revisiting old notes also builds gratitude. You see the struggles you once faced and the lessons you gained from them. You realize how far you have come and how much you have learned. This perspective reminds you that nothing was wasted. Even the hardest days gave you something valuable. Gratitude grows when you see your journey written in front of you. It gives meaning to your past and strength for your future. Without review, you may forget how much you have been given. With review, you remember and appreciate it fully. The practice of reviewing notes may seem simple, but its impact is lasting. Each time you revisit, you strengthen memory, sharpen focus, and reinforce discipline. Each time you revisit, you protect yourself from forgetting what matters. Growth is not about how much you learn once. It is about how much you remember and live daily. Reviewing notes ensures that you live what you learn. It keeps knowledge alive, active, and powerful. Without it, knowledge fades. With it, knowledge becomes part of your character. Picture yourself 1 year from now with this habit. Each week you revisit your notes. Each week you strengthen what you know. By the end of the year, your lessons will not be forgotten words, but living principles. You will carry them into every decision, every relationship, and every challenge. You will not just know more. You will live wiser, and all of it will come from the simple habit of revisiting old notes and strengthening what you already know. Number 17, learn from mistakes by writing down the lesson. Everyone makes mistakes. No one is free from error, and no matter how much we prepare, there will always be moments where we fall short. The real difference between people who grow and people who stay stuck is not in avoiding mistakes, but in how they respond to them. Some people hide from their mistakes, ignore them, or deny them. Others face them, learn from them, and write down the lessons. Writing down the lesson is what locks it in. It transforms a painful memory into a source of wisdom. Without that step, the mistake may repeat itself again and again. With it, the mistake becomes a stepping stone to a better future. Most people underestimate how quickly they forget their mistakes. In the moment, the pain feels strong. You think, I will never let this happen again. But weeks later, the details fade. The emotions calm down, the mistake gets buried, and then life repeats the same pattern. Writing breaks this cycle. Putting the lesson on paper forces you to slow down and think. It forces you to name what happened, what went wrong, and what you learned. That act of naming creates clarity. It makes the lesson real, not just a thought passing through your mind. When you write down the lesson from a mistake, you give yourself a chance to grow stronger instead of weaker. Mistakes can either damage your confidence or build it. If you ignore them, they create doubt. If you learn from them, they create strength. Writing gives you control. It allows you to say, this happened, and here is what I will do differently next time. That simple act turns regret into responsibility. Without it, you may feel like a victim. With it, you feel like a student of life. Think about the last mistake you made. Maybe it was financial and you spent more than you should. Maybe it was personal and you said something you regret. Maybe it was professional and you missed an opportunity because you were unprepared. Each of these moments carries a lesson. If you write it down, you capture it before it fades. You can revisit it later and remind yourself of what you learned. This makes the mistake useful. A mistake without a lesson is wasted. A mistake with a lesson is valuable. Writing is what makes the difference between waste and value. This habit also builds self-awareness. Many people repeat the same errors because they never stop to analyze them. They keep moving, pretending the problem will go away, but the same patterns return. Writing creates awareness. When you put your mistake on paper, you can see it more clearly. You can look for patterns. You may notice that your mistakes often come from impatience, from poor planning, or from ignoring warning signs. These insights are not obvious in the moment, but they become clear when written down. Awareness is the first step to change, and writing builds that awareness. Another benefit of writing is emotional release. Mistakes often carry shame, guilt, or frustration. Holding these feelings inside makes them heavier. Writing them down lightens the load. It gives you a way to process the emotion and move forward. You do not have to share the page with anyone. It can be private. The point is to release the weight. Once it is written, you no longer need to carry it the same way. You can focus on the lesson instead of the pain. This is how writing turns mistakes from chains into teachers. Writing also strengthens memory. The brain remembers what it repeats. By writing down the lesson, you repeat it in a deeper way. You use your mind, your hand, and your eyes together. This multisensory process reinforces the lesson. Later, when a similar situation arises, the memory of what you wrote will return. It will remind you to act differently. Without writing, the memory may fade too quickly. With writing, the lesson becomes part of you. It moves from a passing thought into a lasting guide. This practice also teaches humility. Writing about mistakes is not always comfortable. It forces you to admit your errors honestly, but humility is a strength. It opens the door to growth. When you are humble enough to write down your mistakes, you prove that you value learning more than pride. That humility becomes part of your character. It makes you wiser, calmer, and more prepared. People respect those who learn from their mistakes. They lose respect for those who repeat them. Writing ensures you belong to the first group, not the second. Consider how powerful this habit becomes over time. If you write down one lesson from each mistake, imagine the collection of wisdom you will have after a year. You will not just remember what went wrong. You will have a record of solutions. You will have strategies to avoid repeating errors. You will see how much you have grown. This record becomes proof that you are capable of turning failures into progress. It shows you that nothing is wasted if you are willing to learn. This perspective gives you resilience because you know that even mistakes carry value. Applying this habit in daily life is simple. At the end of the day, take a few minutes to reflect. Ask yourself, what mistake did I make today? What lesson can I learn from it? Then write the answers in your notebook. Keep the entries short and clear. You do not need long essays. You only need honesty. Over time, this practice will sharpen your awareness during the day. You will notice mistakes faster because you know you will write about them later. That awareness will help you correct yourself sooner. The writing reinforces the lesson, and the lesson changes your behavior. This process also prepares you to help others. When someone you know faces a challenge, you can share the lessons you wrote. You can guide them with wisdom gained from your own experience. People trust advice rooted in honesty. They listen when you speak from lived lessons. By writing down your mistakes, you create a storehouse of wisdom you can share with others. You become more valuable because you can help others avoid the pain you went through. This is another way mistakes become useful when recorded. Mistakes are not signs of weakness. They are signs of effort. If you are trying, you will make errors. The goal is not to avoid them, but to use them. Writing ensures you use them well. Each written lesson is like a seed planted in your mind. It grows into better decisions, stronger habits, and wiser actions. Without writing, the seed is lost. With writing, the seed grows. This is why the habit matters so much. It keeps you from wasting the lessons life is already giving you every day. Picture yourself years from now with a notebook full of lessons from your mistakes. Each page tells a story. Some may remind you of pain, but each will also remind you of growth. You will see how much wiser you became because you refused to ignore your errors. You will see how many struggles you turned into strengths. You will realize that your mistakes did not define you. Your response did. That response was to write, to learn, and to grow. This is the path of true progress, built one written lesson at a time. Number 18, use travel time to listen to educational audio. Every day, millions of people spend hours traveling. Some sit in traffic, some ride buses, some take trains, and some walk long distances. For most, this time feels wasted. They scroll on their phones, stare out the window, or simply wait for the time to pass. When they arrive, they feel drained but no wiser. Yet this same time could be turned into one of the most powerful tools for personal growth. By using travel time to listen to educational audio, you can transform what feels like lost hours into a daily classroom. The road becomes your teacher, and your commute becomes a school for success. Think about how much time you spend traveling in a week. Even 30 minutes a day adds up to over 2 hours by the end of the week. Multiply that by a month, and you already have nearly 10 hours. In a year, that is more than 100 hours. Imagine what you could learn in 100 hours if you used it wisely. You could finish dozens of audiobooks, listen to countless lectures, or study entire subjects. That time is already part of your life. The choice is whether it becomes wasted or invested. The beauty of educational audio is that it fits naturally into the rhythm of travel. Your hands are busy driving or holding a bag. Your eyes are focused on the road or the path, but your ears are free. They can absorb lessons, ideas, and stories while you move. This makes audio one of the most efficient ways to learn. You do not need extra time. You do not need a special place. This practice also changes your mindset toward travel. Instead of feeling frustrated by traffic or delays, you begin to see them as opportunities. A long drive becomes a chance to finish a chapter of a book. A crowded train becomes a classroom where you listen to experts. A daily walk becomes a seminar that sharpens your mind. The frustration turns into excitement because you know that travel time is not wasted. It is serving your future. This shift in perspective makes your days feel more productive and meaningful. Educational audio also provides variety. You can listen to biographies, personal development, business strategies, health advice, or history. Each subject adds to your growth in different ways. Some days you may want inspiration. Some days you may want practical skills. Some days you may want deep knowledge. With audio, you can choose what fits your mood and your goals. This variety keeps learning fresh and engaging. It also allows you to connect your learning to your daily life more effectively. Another benefit is the consistency it creates. Many people struggle to find time to read or study because life feels too busy. But travel is already built into your day. By linking learning to travel, you guarantee consistency. You do not have to make extra time. You only need to make a different choice about how you use the time. Consistency is the secret to growth. Small amounts of learning repeated daily add up to extraordinary results. Travel time gives you that consistency naturally if you use it well. Listening to educational audio also sharpens your focus. Unlike passive entertainment, learning requires attention. When you listen, you train your mind to concentrate even in the middle of distractions. Over time, this practice strengthens your ability to hold focus in other areas of life. You become better at paying attention during meetings, conversations, or studies. The skill of focus is rare in a world full of noise. Travel time gives you a daily opportunity to practice it. This makes you sharper, calmer, and more effective in everything you do. This habit also builds your confidence. When you consistently fill your mind with knowledge, you begin to speak with more clarity. You have more ideas to share in conversations. You understand topics that once felt confusing. People notice when you speak with knowledge and confidence. They respect your input more. This confidence does not come from pretending. It comes from preparation. Every minute of audio you listen to prepares you. Confidence grows when knowledge meets practice, and travel time provides the knowledge daily. Imagine arriving at work after a commute where you listen to a powerful book. While others complain about the traffic, you arrive with fresh ideas. You feel inspired. You feel energized. You are ready to contribute. That difference compounds day after day. Over time, you separate yourself from the crowd. While they waste hours, you invest hours. While they complain, you grow. This quiet but steady separation becomes visible in your results, your opportunities, and your influence. Educational audio also keeps you connected to mentors you may never meet. By listening to their voices, you gain access to their wisdom, their experiences, and their guidance. You can learn from world leaders, successful entrepreneurs, health experts, or great thinkers without ever meeting them in person. Their lessons travel with you. Their voices fill your commute. This access is a privilege, and it is more available today than ever before. Ignoring it is a waste. Using it is a gift. Another advantage is emotional balance. Travel often brings stress, especially in heavy traffic or crowded spaces. Listening to educational audio changes your focus. Instead of dwelling on the frustration, your mind is engaged with learning. Stress decreases because your attention is shifted. You arrive calmer, more centered, and more prepared to handle the day. This emotional balance is valuable not only for productivity, but also for health and relationships. You carry a better mood because you invested your mind instead of exhausting it. The practice of using travel time wisely also teaches discipline. It is easy to fall back into entertainment, music, or endless scrolling. Choosing educational audio requires intention. Each time you choose, you strengthen your discipline. That discipline grows into a habit. Soon you will not want to waste travel time. You will crave the feeling of learning. This change in habit spills over into other parts of your life. You become more intentional with time, more focused on growth, and more committed to consistency. Consider what you could accomplish in 5 years with this habit. If you spend just 30 minutes a day listening to educational audio, that adds up to more than 900 hours in 5 years. That is the equivalent of attending hundreds of lectures or reading dozens of books. Imagine how much wiser, sharper, and more skilled you would become. Few people will make this choice, which is why those who do stand out. The advantage is not small. It is life-changing. Picture yourself years from now reflecting on how you used your travel time. You could look back and see hours wasted on distractions, or you could see hours invested in wisdom. One path leads to regret. The other leads to growth. The choice is simple but powerful. Every day you hold the power to turn your commute into a classroom, your journey into a lesson, and your travel into transformation. All it takes is the decision to listen, learn, and grow while the world around you waits for the time to pass. Number 19, join a group where learning is the daily culture. One of the biggest reasons people stop growing is because of the environment they live in. You can have ambition, you can set goals, and you can even read books, but if you surround yourself with people who do not value growth, you will eventually slow down. Human beings are influenced by the people around them more than they realize. If the culture around you is negative, lazy, or uninterested in learning, it is only a matter of time before you begin to mirror it. But the opposite is also true. If you join a group where learning is the daily culture, you naturally rise to their level. You absorb their energy, their curiosity, and their discipline. That environment becomes the soil in which your growth flourishes. Think about how much easier it is to stay disciplined when others around you are also disciplined. If you are in a group that reads daily, you will feel encouraged to read. If you are in a group that discusses ideas, you will start thinking more deeply. If you are in a group that values improvement, you will push yourself to improve. This is the quiet power of culture. It shapes you without forcing you. You pick up habits simply by being in the right environment. Joining a group where learning is normal makes growth natural instead of a struggle. The problem for many people is that they stay in groups that do not challenge them. They stay around friends who only talk about entertainment or gossip. They stay in communities where the culture is comfort, not learning. Then they wonder why they feel stuck. The truth is, you cannot grow beyond the culture you live in unless you break away. That is why you must be intentional about joining groups that value learning. You must choose to place yourself in environments where growth is celebrated. When you find such a group, the difference is clear. Conversations are different. Instead of talking about people, they talk about ideas. Instead of focusing on problems, they focus on solutions. Instead of wasting time, they invest time. You leave their company feeling energized instead of drained. You feel motivated instead of discouraged. You begin to see possibilities that once felt hidden. These are the signs of a culture of learning. The more time you spend in it, the more it becomes part of you. Another benefit of joining a group focused on learning is accountability. Growth is easier when someone notices your progress. In a learning culture, people ask about your goals, your habits, and your lessons. They encourage you when you succeed, and they remind you when you slip. This accountability keeps you consistent. Alone, it is easy to quit. In a group, quitting feels harder because others are counting on you. That pressure is not negative. It is supportive. It reminds you that you are not alone. It shows you that your growth matters not only to you, but also to the group. Being part of a learning group also gives you access to different perspectives. You can only see life from your own angle, but when you share with others, you gain new insights. Someone else's experience may save you from a mistake. Someone else's knowledge may give you a shortcut. Someone else's story may inspire you when you feel tired. Growth multiplies when ideas are exchanged. That is the beauty of learning together. It creates wisdom greater than what you could build alone. This habit also increases your courage. When you are surrounded by learners, you feel braver about trying new things. You see others experimenting, failing, and improving. You realize that mistakes are normal and growth is a process. This removes fear. You become willing to take risks because you know you are supported. Fear shrinks in the presence of community. Courage grows in the presence of encouragement. A learning group gives you both. It creates a safe space to stretch yourself beyond your comfort zone. Imagine how much progress you could make in 1 year if you joined such a group. Each week you would be exposed to new ideas. Each discussion would sharpen your thinking. Each challenge would push you forward. In 12 months, you would not only know more, you would be more confident, more disciplined, and more motivated. While others waste time in unproductive environments, you would be growing in a culture of learning. That difference compounds over time until your results separate you from the average. You might ask where to find such groups. They exist in many forms. The form does not matter as much as the culture. Look for groups where the members are hungry to learn, where discussions are meaningful, and where accountability is present. Once you find one, commit yourself fully. Participate actively. Share your lessons. Listen deeply. The more you give, the more you will receive. Joining a learning group also strengthens your discipline. Growth is easier when it becomes a routine. Many groups meet weekly or monthly, creating regular opportunities to learn. This structure keeps you consistent. It prevents long gaps where you forget your goals. Over time, these regular sessions create rhythm in your growth. You begin to look forward to them because you know they bring value. Discipline becomes less about forcing yourself and more about following the group's natural rhythm. Another powerful effect of joining a group is inspiration. Watching others grow makes you believe you can grow too. Seeing their progress removes excuses. If they can do it, so can you. Their achievements become a mirror that reflects your own potential. Inspiration is contagious, and in a group of learners, it spreads quickly. Each success story fuels the group. Each challenge overcome encourages others. Together, you build an environment where progress feels normal and growth feels possible. This practice also builds leadership. When you join a learning group, you are not only influenced, you also influence others. Your questions may spark someone else's insight. Your story may encourage someone else's courage. Your discipline may inspire someone else's consistency. Leadership is not about titles. It is about influence. In a group where learning is the culture, everyone has the chance to lead by example. This builds your confidence and your ability to contribute. It teaches you that growth is not only about receiving, but also about giving. Over time, this habit changes your identity. You begin to see yourself as part of a community of learners. You no longer think of growth as something rare. You think of it as something normal. This shift is powerful because identity drives behavior. When you see yourself as a learner, you naturally seek growth. You naturally avoid environments that waste your time. You naturally move toward opportunities to expand. That identity shapes your choices daily, and those choices shape your future. Picture yourself 5 years from now if you join a group where learning is the culture. You would have absorbed thousands of ideas, shared countless discussions, and built deep relationships with people who value growth. You would carry more knowledge, more skills, and more confidence than you could ever gain alone. You would be stronger not only because of what you learned, but also because of the environment that shaped you. That is the power of joining a group where learning is not the exception, but the daily culture. Number 20, set a small daily learning goal and achieve it. One of the biggest struggles people face is the feeling of being overwhelmed by the idea of growth. They set goals so big that they become paralyzed. They promise themselves they will read a book a week, master a new skill in a month, or change their life in one giant leap. When they cannot keep up, they quit altogether. Growth then feels like something impossible, something reserved for others. The truth is, lasting growth is built on small daily steps. If you set a small daily learning goal and achieve it, you create steady progress. You stop waiting for big breakthroughs and start building small victories that stack over time. Small daily goals are powerful because they are realistic. Reading 10 pages, learning one new word, writing down one idea, or practicing for 15 minutes may not look impressive in a single day, but when multiplied by weeks and months, they create massive results. The human brain responds well to small wins. Each win gives you a sense of accomplishment. That sense fuels motivation. Motivation fuels consistency. Consistency fuels transformation. This is the quiet cycle that turns small daily learning goals into life-changing results. When you set small goals, you also eliminate excuses. Big goals invite procrastination. They feel too heavy, so you delay them. But a small goal feels manageable. It is hard to justify skipping something that takes only a few minutes. This builds discipline. Each time you keep your promise to yourself, you prove that you can be trusted. Over time, this builds confidence. Confidence grows not from giant leaps, but from daily proof that you can follow through. The more small goals you achieve, the stronger your confidence becomes. Another benefit of small daily goals is clarity. Instead of asking yourself, what should I do today? You already know. The decision is made in advance. This clarity removes stress and saves energy. Your mind no longer wastes time on uncertainty. It simply acts. This simplicity is powerful because success is often the result of simple actions done repeatedly. Setting a small learning goal daily keeps things clear, focused, and achievable. It makes growth part of your routine instead of a burden. Small goals also create momentum. One goal achieved today encourages another tomorrow. The chain continues and soon you feel unstoppable. The human mind loves momentum. It thrives when it sees progress. Even if the progress is small, it creates energy. That energy carries you forward. Without goals, days blend together and you feel stuck. With small goals, every day feels meaningful. You go to bed knowing you achieved something. You wake up with purpose because you know what is next. This momentum is what keeps growth alive. This practice also builds discipline in areas beyond learning. Once you prove you can achieve small learning goals daily, you begin to apply the same principle to health, work, and relationships. You realize that any area of life can improve through small, consistent actions. This shift in mindset is powerful. It shows you that success is not about talent or luck. It is about discipline. Small daily goals train that discipline in the simplest way possible. They create habits that carry over into everything else. Imagine setting a goal to read just 10 pages a day. In a single day, it feels small. In a week, you have finished 70 pages. In a month, you have read 300 pages, which is the length of a full book. In a year, that is 12 books. 12 books filled with lessons, ideas, and wisdom, all because you set one small daily goal. The same principle applies to any subject. Small steps create big results when repeated with consistency. That is the secret of growth. Another strength of small goals is that they make failure less frightening. If you miss a big goal, you feel discouraged. But if you miss a small goal, you can recover easily. You simply reset the next day. Over time, you learn that progress is not about perfection. It is about persistence. Small goals teach you persistence because they are easier to restart. They remind you that success is built not on flawless effort, but on consistent effort. Setting daily learning goals also sharpens your focus on what matters. You cannot learn everything at once, so you must choose. Each small goal forces you to prioritize. What is the most important lesson today? What is the one skill I should practice? What is the one insight I should write down? This habit of choosing focuses your mind. It teaches you to value quality over quantity. It shows you that depth matters more than speed. With focus, each small goal becomes more powerful. This practice also gives you measurable progress. Without goals, growth feels invisible. You may learn, but you do not see it. With small daily goals, you can measure your effort. You can count the pages read, the words learned, the notes written, or the minutes practiced. These measurements remind you that progress is real. They motivate you because you see the numbers grow. Measuring progress is essential for staying encouraged, and small daily goals make measurement easy. Over time, these daily goals reshape your identity. You no longer see yourself as someone who struggles with discipline. You see yourself as a learner, as someone committed to growth, as someone who keeps promises. This new identity changes the way you think and act. You start expecting more from yourself. You start believing that you can achieve more. Identity is powerful because it drives behavior. Small daily goals build a stronger identity, and that identity fuels greater success. Picture the impact of this habit after 5 years. Each day you set one small learning goal and achieve it. That adds up to more than 800 small wins. Think of the knowledge gained, the skills developed, the confidence built, and the habits formed. Most people will drift through those same 5 years with little change. You will grow steadily, day after day, because you chose to build through small goals. That difference will be visible in your work, your relationships, your mindset, and your opportunities. The process is simple but requires commitment. Each morning, set one small learning goal. Write it down. Keep it clear and specific. At the end of the day, complete it. No matter how busy you are, protect that goal. Let it be non-negotiable. Over time, you will see that one small goal daily does more than improve knowledge. It improves character. It strengthens discipline. It builds momentum. And it transforms your life one step at a time.